Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Stand in line for your fix. DeMarcus and Marcus in the mix, serving you yet another round of Fish and Grits, June 28, 2017. How's it going for you, my man?
It's going all right for me. It's just another day. I'm kind of excited. Chris Paul is a new Houston Rockets, so it's feeling good.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And we got a returning guest. We enjoyed him so much last week. We had them bring him back in for the back-to-back and possibly more. My man Marcus Wilson, what's going on with you?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure, man. It's a good day. It's a wonderful time to be a Rockets fan. Allegedly, it's an even it's an even better day for you to be a Spurs fan because we'll get into that later. But I'll save my shade for later on in the program.
I mean, it's no real shade because I agree with a lot of the things you said last week when we was kind of talking about Chris Paul. We didn't expect something like this to happen. I feel
Not at all.
I feel safe saying that. But you were saying that Chris Paul wasn't the perfect fit for that system, and I almost can see what you mean. I think the perfect fit for that system now is Kyle Lowry. Like I think they should be all in on Kyle, but
Definitely, I think their top two choices as far as point guards go is they'll either step kind of outside the box with a Lowry, which is kind of a known but unknown type quantity, but
Or Rose.
honestly, they'll be looking more to that guy that they used to have, George Hill.
We did say
That's
that.
picking up steam. That's picking up a lot of steam. Dude just came back into San Antonio, started our annual kids party night out, movie party night.
that's always the
Uh,
best way to win the city back over.
he's never sold his house in San Antonio. He usually spends a significant portion of the off seasons in San Antonio. His wife has charity events and stuff like that she does in San Antonio to this day. So the ties are still there. They just have to make sure that the money is right. And I think they can get it worked out. I know on open market they say that he can go anywhere between 20 and 24 a year. Uh,
Damn.
Whoa, hold
hey,
on. George Hill?
George Hill?
George Hill.
Oh, you know what? Because he is at that exception now.
Yeah, George
But he,
Hill.
but
It's
he
it's
hasn't
it's
made no
different in the
All-Star
NBA. You
team.
got to
He hasn't made
remember,
no All-NBA. I mean, that usually, man,
but you just
that's
got to
steep.
remember that's the market though, and you got
Yeah,
to think
that's
about the skill set and stuff like that in this era of small ball and stuff like that to have what would technically be an oversized point
Point
guard
guard.
at George Hill because I mean George can guard ones, twos, and possibly threes, and he's strong. He can keep them out of the box, keep them out of the lane. That was one of the things that made him so attractive to Greg Popovich. That's why Popovich was always head over heels for him. But it remains to be seen, man. At this point, I think if I could open up my crystal ball in a perfect world, the Spurs probably go out and get George Hill and Iguodala and call it a day, and they'll try to find their small ball to counteract the world's best small ball right now. Um,
definitely. I think the Spurs they do have a lot of moves that can be made, but the move that took everybody is like I was outside, I was moving some cars around at the lot. I just seen a thing pop up on my phone. I'm like, another Chris Paul rumor. Then I seen a package. I'm like, okay, what's going on right now? But when everything first hit you, Griff, how did you feel about the trade? What's your thoughts going into the year, and what moves can you see them making down the road?
What's crazy about that is I was listening to the podcast. I was into a podcast. I think I was listening to Breakfast Club this morning, and my friend had hit me up on the message on the HP thing, and he was like, "Dog, Chris Paul just went to the Rockets." I was like, "I ain't got no alert about that." And he said the dude that sit next to him is a huge Rockets fan. Well, he's a huge Rockets fan or whatever. And he said that he's hollering up and down the hallway and stuff. And I said, man, let me go see. And then soon enough, man, I saw it being happening. And it came to realization is like in my mind, I knew I didn't like that trade because remember we talked about that, DeMarcus.
Oh yeah, we did. And I wasn't always a big fan of the player Chris Paul, but what sold me is having the president of basketball on your team because he has the most pull in the NBA for anybody not named LeBron James. And as a player, I'm not coming to a team to play with Patrick Beverly, Lou Williams, Trevor Ariza, players of that nature, but I'll come to play for a leader in Chris Paul, somebody who's willing to sacrifice his game to people, two superstars that's willing to sacrifice their game and take a back seat to each other in James Harden and Chris Paul. This, to me, was a bigger step for James Harden as a person because he could continue to have these B team teammates go out there, put up 28, 12, 6 rebounds. He can continue to do that if he wanted to chase another MVP. But I think that's in the back of his mind now. So I'm just seeing a lot of progression from James Harden, the character from 2 years ago when he was dating the Kardashian. He's day and night from that person. And that's what really has me excited about this trade, because this is what he wanted.
And the crazy thing about it that always blew my mind is the fact that when I'm looking at the trade, I personally, before it even happened, me and you, the rumor was that the Rockets were going to actively pursue Chris Paul. And it just looked good. We was like, hey, Chris Paul is just entertaining people, but I'm pretty sure he's going to try to go to Cleveland, or he's going to stay with the Clippers, or he may go to San Antonio. But I thought that was a stretch after a while. But then when I saw the trade and it happened, and it dawned on me, this could be a good thing. People are looking at it as James Harden and Chris Paul are both dominant. They both do the same thing, basically. And what is that going to do? They're going to cancel each other out. But this actually helps it up, and they frees up more space for both of them to work. You can't double-team Harden anymore. You can't double-team Chris Paul anymore. It opens up the spacing for everybody else. And the thing I like the most about this trade is no one saw it coming, but you can see the greatness. If you stand back and you look at two people who have been communicating since February, I heard that they came up with an idea that they can make this work. So like we just said, I just said with Chris Paul and his other options he could have went to, the fact that he took a meeting with the Rockets and he was sold to sign a contract with the Clippers to be traded to the Rockets tells me that that Morey, D'Antoni, and James Harden have talked to Chris Paul and sold him on something that we haven't seen yet. But you see the workings of something. They didn't just up and trade Chris Paul without anybody knowing. So this is not a shock to James Harden. I'm pretty sure there's some talks going on that I'm pretty sure they're really going to start practicing on off the ball movement and stuff like that. And another thing I like about this is going to mature James Harden into being an elite player and taking that next step, because he's going to learn things with Chris Paul, how to really manage game flow and really manage spacing, and then really manage keeping your head on strong and stepping up in moments where you need to step up. So like in that game 6, Chris Paul wouldn't win ghost like James Harden. You seen what Chris Paul did when Blake Griffin went down. He stood up and carried the load. So James Harden need that kind of that kind of leader to increase his skill.
He definitely needs the leadership. But all right, Wilson, I know you're not probably the biggest Rockets fan. You're more of a Spurs fan. But when let me
approach it like this, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. Yes, born in San Antonio, Spurs fan till the day I die. Born the same year, like I said on the last podcast, born the same exact year that the Spurs came into the NBA. That being said, yeah, we're rivals, but I don't hate the Rockets. I don't have a need to just, be bitter and talk down on them and this, that, and the other. There's guys that I've loved that play for the Rockets, first and foremost. My man, Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the best that I've ever seen do it. I'm a huge James Harden fan. I love James Harden. I like his game, and it gives me some concerns. I'll go with the positives first. It's always good for your branding to get somebody that can be an impromptu ambassador, alluding to the point that you made earlier. Chris Paul will make people look at Houston as a destination. Just off the fact that he's here, it'll make it more attractive.
Like when Jay-Z went to the Nets, you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't a big
people all of a sudden wanted to play for Brooklyn. It was like, okay, but they've been terrible for 8 years. So what? But Jay-Z is there, homie. It's different. Jay is there.
Let's go.
The Rock, baby. It's the Rock.
Let's go, KG. Let's go.
Come on, KG. Let's go, man.
That kind of trickle down. I think that to compete in today's NBA, man, you have to have star power. At the end of the day, whether people love the move, hate the move, you have to understand and appreciate and at least respect the logic of it. You cannot make it with just one star. You can't just make it with 2 stars nowadays. Usually you have to have at least 3 at this point. Minimum. It's just the way that the NBA is going.
Yeah.
The only big concern that I have is it's going to be interesting again to see these guys work it out as far as chemistry on the floor and stuff like that, because those 2 guys may have it set in their head that they're going to work together and do what it takes and stuff like that, but it's not just those 2 on the floor, and that's going to be something that's going to have to take time as well. The other thing that concerns me a little bit, just purely being devil's advocate, but being a James Harden fan, I have difficulty with somebody telling me after I've had one of the greatest seasons as a point guard ever in the history of basketball and better than anything that Chris Paul has ever done in a single season.
That's true also.
Now I need to move off the ball and not be a point guard so much after you went through and literally overachieved your behinds off as an organization once you put Harden at the point guard. Nobody expected them to win all the games that they won. Nobody expected them to go as far as they went in the playoffs last year, going back to the beginning of the season. People wondered if they were going to break 500.
Or make the playoffs.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Nobody really predicted them to make the playoffs last year, and they overachieved. They actually,
somebody else said
stepped up to the plate and like they hit a grand slam last year. I'm like, the end of the season wasn't what you wanted by any means, but looking at the total body of work of what they accomplished last year, man, you had to feel like head and shoulders above what you've done in the past seasons. Like, man, like we're on to something here. Let's build off of that. But to me, it's kind of like taking a sidestep instead of taking that forward step with doing this, because now you're going to have to go through and rework another chemistry issue. You have to rework your depth now, because I wouldn't have gotten rid of Pharrell. I know a lot of people don't really care. Oh, he didn't play that much, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. But you develop guys like that. That guy has a lot of talent. A Patrick Beverly, another guy that's all NBA first team defender. I mean, you go through and you do stuff like that, and I understand the logistics behind it. I understand the money reasons behind it, because they ended up clearing about $11 million in total player exemption money when it's all said and done, so they could still go out and make moves and stuff like that. But some pieces you just want to keep for the sake of chemistry. I mean, you can go through and you can look at this Rockets team for all that they did last season, and it's not a stretch to say that Patrick Beverly was the heart and soul of that team. He was the fire in that team. And now you have to replace that, and I don't see Chris Paul being that replacement for that. And, it's a lot to be said for stuff like that. And, of course, me being a Spurs fan, I appreciate things like consistency, chemistry, having those people that are going to be those glue guys and stuff like that. It's a lot to be said for those kinds of things. It keeps you consistently successful. And right now, the Rockets are approaching this on the outside looking in. They're approaching this like, okay, we're going to have to either win something in the next 3 years or we're not going to win anything at all.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. But on the flip side of it, you got to think about the career aspect of everything. I mean, we're talking about Chris Paul, a player that I've said this many times. He would kill for the failures that James Harden has had in his career, because those failures led to a finals appearance,
Indeed.
2 Western appearances, and him also blowing a 3-1 lead to James Harden. So he would kill just to be in that position. And look at the 2 guards he's played along with in his career. A young J.R. Smith that clearly wasn't ready to be in the league and has been on 3 different teams since he was drafted to New Orleans. And then J.J. Redick. That's it. That's all Chris Paul has to say he played with it as far as the backcourt. Now, I just don't think that was enough. And I
think that Chris Paul was more preoccupied with the big men that he could throw lobs to, and not the guards that he could pass out to the wing and see threes.
That's the team he inherited. It ain't like they went out.
Well, we say it's a team that you say it's a team that he inherited, but he had say so in what went on in New Orleans. He had say so in what went on in LA too.
But who's going to New Orleans in?
Exactly. So this is what happened. So the rumor was that Chris Paul, from day one when he got to the Clippers, y'all can hear me?
Yeah.
So since day one, since he got into went to the Clippers, he's been advocating to get him another 2 guard when Doc Rivers came in. So that's why he wanted to get like another person that can alleviate ball pressure on him, that he doesn't have to handle it all the time. So you see the inner workings of him discussing with James Harden. And another thing about that is Chris Paul, when he was in New Orleans, it's a small market. No one's running to go play with Anthony Davis if you're thinking about it.
Even David West got out of there. So
exactly. Like, as good as that team looks on paper, like OKC, New Orleans, or you want to go to Milwaukee, even though they are a young and up and coming team, nobody wants to go to those small market teams. And what Chris Paul was when he went to the Clippers, I think that's a reason why he wanted to go to LA, because he felt like he can bring in the talent or the pieces that he needs. But look at his career. Look at the Clippers.
And look at his owner. The ownership situation that played a big burden. Nobody want to go to the races owner, even if y'all do have a new owner. Like, hey, y'all still got Y'all still got bad lingo, and y'all still the Clippers.
And
I think confused. It's not one of the top franchises in the NBA. They just started winning under Chris Paul.
And I think that he gets the bad part of the stick. Like, you know, it's not saying that they don't win because of Chris Paul. I don't think it's just he has a string of bad luck. Okay, so if you see, okay, I know you want to object to this. So if you go
I'm not going to object to it. Go ahead.
I put a lot on Blake Griffin, but go
I put a lot on Blake Griffin, and I put a lot on coaching, because what it is if you go back a couple of years ago when they played the Spurs, when they played the Spurs, who was the single factor on why they beat the Spurs in Game 7, or better yet, that whole series? It was because of Chris Paul. Chris Paul is always the reason that shines and tries to control the floor. He's like LeBron James in this aspect. When he gets off the floor, it seems like chaos happens. It feels like nobody knows their role. Nobody knows how to do what they need to do. And he has to come in and play superhero. That's putting a lot on a person who's under 6 feet. That's putting a lot of minutes on a body who can't just be running around like that. So Chris Paul sees that, and I'm pretty sure James Harden sees that he sees that. We may not have noticed this, but James Harden looked like he was tired, and you know, as it went,
ain't no look about it. That dude was gassed.
We know he was trying to save face with the whole, you know, I believe in playing 82 games and no sitting and stuff like that. But you could tell that was a lot to be putting on James Harden, you know, from, you know, switching from the 2-guard role to the point guard role. So he needs that alleviation too. And I'm telling you, I think I can see where it can fuck up, but I can see where it can work right. So it is like I'm glad Daryl Morey is this. And I'm sorry that I'm going a little bit long on this. I like it that Daryl Morey is taking swings and trying to stop the Warriors. He's not like fucking Boston, who they got all the assets in the world. They can pitch to get Gordon Hayward and Paul George easy.
They could have got Jimmy Butler.
You can sell Jimmy Butler on that. You can say, hey, man, guess what? LeBron is de-aging. We are 2 pieces away from beating the Cavs. We beat the Cavs, one game without Isaiah Thompson. Add 2 more stars in Isaiah Thompson. We can beat them. We can beat the Warriors. We beat the Warriors when we had no stars. Just picture what we do. We had 2. But you know what? Nobody seems to be, you know, everybody wants to plan for the future, and nobody wants to compete against, I guess, this big bad wolf down the street. But it's like, I'm liking that Daryl Morey stepping up and it's like, you know what? We may fucking fail, but guess what? We're going to fail, you know, trying. You know, we're not going to sit around with B-list stars. I love Patrick Beverly to death, but I can't consistently rely on Patrick Beverly to score 20-something points. What we need.
That won't happen. And the one thing that I don't think a lot of Rockets fans are realizing is that team hit their ceiling last year.
Exactly.
I mean, they hit their ceiling by winning 45 games compared to 55. And you can't win with that team. And I really think the brain trust of the Rockets went into this offseason realizing something has to change. I understand everybody want to see Pat Beverly. I understand people was in love with Corey Brewer for a while. Exactly. Josh Smith was a fan favorite. Dwight Howard still had his crowd, but
it fades.
It fades quick
when you're winning,
especially in the NBA. I mean, I remember a player named what's this guy name on the Milwaukee Bucks. It was a guy named Simmons. He had won Most Improved Player of the Year, went to the Clippers and flamed out. I can't think of his first name, but like players, they only good for X amount of years for such a small amount of time. And just the fact that James Harden realized that his prime is going to close soon. 28 years old seems young in basketball years, but most athletes don't really win those big titles until they're in their 30s. Chris Paul is already there. James Harden is approaching it. I'm glad that he has the mindset that, hey, something has to change in Houston for me to start winning an actual championship. Stop chasing MVPs. Him chasing MVPs have led to what?
Nothing.
No MVPs and knocked out the playoffs. That's it. Nothing else to show for it. No finals appearance in Houston. That Oklahoma City team is years in the past. Nobody even cares about that. So you got to go out and you got to create something new. And I feel like these moves that they made, bringing in all these non-guaranteed contracts, along with the exception that Wilson was talking about, puts them in the market to swing a trade for Carmelo. Even though I'm not a Carmelo fan, I'm just throwing things out there. I'd rather have Paul George because of the youth. But if push come to shove, you swing Ryan Anderson to the Knicks or whoever going to take that salary, bring in the Carmelo Anthony. Now you have somewhat of a big 3 that may not compete with the San Antonio Spurs. May not compete with the Golden State Warriors, but it definitely puts you in 3 or 4 as far as the league is positioned as the best team.
And I can agree with that, and I feel where you guys are coming from. But let me say, as a Spurs fan, yeah, I don't identify with this whole philosophy that Maury and them tend to have because we just don't do it that way.
It's old school
we
with the
actually
Spurs, though.
we actually do it. Yeah, we actually are the exception to, I guess, what's the modern day rule now, because they went through and I laughed because, of course, what would it be most typical of the Spurs? You guys tell me the last time you saw 2 seniors get drafted in the NBA draft by one team.
They do it
Because
all
the Spurs just did that. They just drafted 2 seniors. Blossom Game out of Clemson, White out of Colorado, and it fits the mode of what do you do to beat the Warriors? You get longer, you get more versatile, you get bigger. They got a big 6'5" point guard to go with the 6'5" point guard they drafted the year previous in Murray. They got a 6'7", 6'8" swing man. They still have Anderson. You still have the guys overseas that you draft and stash that they can pull from. You put yourself in a position where you don't have to clean out house like the Rockets just did and mortgage your future by constantly giving up draft picks because you won't be picking in the first round again this season coming up.
Like 2020.
It's one of those. This stuff like that is going to catch up to you, and that's why I say it. To me, it just seems like they're going for the. We got about a 3 or 4 year window, or we're going to have to just blow it up and start over again.
Oh, I mean,
and
they do.
I get it, but at the end of the day, is that the thing that's going to get you the most out of what it is that you're trying to be? Do you want to keep doing the roller coaster effect every 4 or 5 years? You're good, and then all of a sudden you fade off again, or do you want to consistently be in the mix? That's the difference to me between a team like a Houston or a Cleveland and a team like Golden State or a San Antonio. Because Golden State, you're going to hear about them for about the next 10 years.
Then they may disappear.
That's what I'm saying.
But see, the thing about it is the way that they set themselves up, they won't disappear. But it just depends on the philosophy that you come up with. When you go through and you look at Cleveland to a certain extent, you look at Golden State to a certain extent, that San Antonio blueprint is written all over them as far as what it is that they want to do and try to accomplish to get that longevity, because San Antonio is the blueprint for consistency and longevity. If you want to stay relevant, if you want to stay in the mix, I mean, I'm 40. They've won 50 or more games half my life in a row. I mean, that's disgusting to think about. Like, literally, there's like a generation of NBA fans that does not know what it's like to not have the Spurs in the playoffs, to not have the Spurs win 50 games. You know what I'm saying? It's weird, but it's just the reality of what we live in. And let me throw this one side note out there, just because I know nobody is paying attention to the high priest of the NBA Illuminati. I posted it up on Facebook earlier today. Jerry West. Y'all are going to respect that man at the end of the day. None of this stuff happened until Jerry West relocated. As soon as Jerry West left from Oakland, went into LA, all of a sudden Paul leaves and you get value for him. Because the one thing that's funny to me too is Chris Paul already said he was going to go in free agency to Houston. But I wanted to go ahead and at least let the Clippers get some value for me before I left. And made it, it worked out good for both teams because, again, the Rockets get the stack back player exemption money, yada, 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 this, that, and the other. The only thing that I know is the Clippers got a lot more money to spend. The Clippers have more picks. The Clippers have young talent to evaluate, and he can go through and put his stamp on it now and kind of reinvent the whole situation. And if I'm Doc Rivers, I'm real nervous right now because another little tale that came out to light with a lot of people around Chris Paul today is the fact that they had a trade deadline deal that they were trying to get where they could have got Carmelo and Sasha Vujicic for Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers, and Paul Pierce. And Doc didn't want to trade his son. And Chris Paul had a problem with that. I'd have a problem. Picked his son over the team's success.
Because they clearly needed a scoring wing. They had nobody over there. They had nobody.
At this point, the Clippers, you pretty much knew what you were going to get from them. They plateaued as an organization as far as what they were going to get out of the talent that they had. It just was what it was. You were going to get 50-something wins, and you were going to get a second-round playoff run. That was about it. That's it.
And even with the trade, I've seen a lot of people more than I'm comfortable with saying that the Rockets are the third best team in the league. I still can't believe that. Because did we trade for Greg Pop? I mean, let's
third best in the league. Third best in the West right now. I can agree with third best in the league.
I've been here in league. A lot of people have been putting the Spurs in front of us, and I cannot agree.
I would put San Antonio, Cleveland, Boston, and Golden State ahead of the Rockets right now.
You put Boston over the Rockets?
Yep.
Okay, so this is what I had to say about the whole when you was talking about the Spurs way of doing, building through the draft and stuff like that. See, that works for the Spurs. When the Spurs came in, they had David Robinson, and they end up striking gold with Tim Duncan, where they were able to have these pieces in place, and then they were able to find gold in the draft. And I don't know what it
Tony Parker
is.
Well, see, here's the thing about it too, and this speaks to the level of coaching and the amount of commitment that you have to the brand and stuff like that too. You have to remember, over the 41 years that the Spurs have existed, they've only missed the playoffs 4 times. But the other statistic that's even funnier than that to me, you do realize that the Spurs have only had 3 lottery picks in their entire history. Sean Elliott, David Robinson, Tim Duncan. That's the only 3 times that the Spurs have ever picked in the lottery. So for all of the talent that they have and all the consistency that they have, it compounds the insult to injury to a lot of these folks that are in the lottery literally every year and get the pick from the cream of the crop, that the Spurs are stood and picking at the bottom of the draft, and they're still coming up gold. The best 57th pick of all time, Manu Ginobili.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get Tony Parker at the very end of the first round, and I remember to this day that people looked around like, who in the hell is Tony Parker when he got drafted? But when it goes down to it, they drafted the greatest French player in the history of the NBA. They drafted the greatest Argentinian player in the history of the NBA. It's dedication and it's scouting. It's going through and it's looking past the obvious. It's not going for the sexy name. It's going for the piece that fits the puzzle that you're trying to solve. And that's the biggest difference between a lot of these organizations. They're going to go for the name because they're thinking about it, and not anything being wrong with it, because at the end of the day, it's a business. You're going to think about selling a ticket. You're going to think about promoting a brand. So you're going to put that name, that face, that talent out there to be that face of the franchise. Well, San Antonio doesn't have that problem with that because they're the only team in town. They don't have to sell themselves on a brand because they're the only brand in that entire city. So they're going to buy into whatever they put in that system anyway, which affords them that luxury. You don't have that bright lights, big city attitude like a Houston or a LA or a New York, where you have to have a face. You have to have a name. You don't have to have that in San Antonio, and it reflects in the personality of the players. The biggest face that they have on that team is the quietest guy in the entire NBA. It's just that weird aspect of it. San Antonio is always going to be an exception and not the rule. So it's not anything that people are going to just blindly follow that blueprint. But it does still give precedence and evidence to the fact that you can be successful doing it the old-fashioned way.
I can agree with that. But the thing with the Rockets is that was the San Antonio MO. Our MO was we get talent, we mature talent, and we trade talent off for.
That's every Houston team in every sport. For some reason, you guys love getting rid of Hall of Famers before they become Hall of Famers.
It's a little different about the Rockets because Daryl Morey came into a situation where T-Mac and Yao Ming is out the door, and your best player is Trevor Ariza.
Exactly.
And to go from Trevor Ariza as your best player to Chris Paul and James Harden without ever picking in the top 10, that's pretty amazing. That's a lot of willing and dealing.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not indicting Daryl Morey in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I think that the guy is an awesome numbers guy. He's a salary cap wizard. I think that he's done a great job, like you said, considering what he had to deal with at the end of the day. But it's my only question is, did the ownership change?
No, Les Alexander, he just give him all the free will. Les Alexander just want to win.
But as far as the accountability and the brunt of all of this knee-jerk, up and down roller coaster type effect that's basically taken place since the mid-90s, I put that on ownership because that's part of the overall. But you also talk about an owner that he came in first 2 years as owning the team, won championship. So this is what he's accustomed to. Like, this
winning thing feels good.
Yeah, it feels good. So
I understand that as well. But it's one thing to come in and strike while the iron is hot and win, but it's another thing to remember how you got there in the first place to get those wins.
He wasn't there.
And think about this. And another thing that's funny about the Rockets is the thing that I like about the Spurs, and no one loves to point out, is y'all, besides having consistency, is y'all have a string of good health. Y'all have a lot of good health.
Sometimes.
But outside of Tim Duncan at one year, I don't recall a lot of injuries. And Tony Parker.
We get banged up at inopportune times. Like for instance, this year, everything was great. We were functioning on all cylinders, stuff like that. One rolled ankle changed the whole perspective.
But that's
what I'm saying.
I know, but that's now. But I'm talking about of y'all 20-year stretch. You can't really point out many times where you had so many players getting hurt or your star players getting hurt.
Latter 8 years of David Robinson's career, he had the back issues. Sean Elliott with the kidney replacement.
But that's what
I'm saying. He had Tim Duncan for those last. But you still had Tim Duncan who was a work in progress. It's not like Tim came in the league being Tim Duncan. He had to have some growing pains as well.
But that's what I'm saying. You still have so you lost one footing, you still had another footing. See, the thing with the Rockets, a lot of teams are when they have this footing, they end up like the pieces start falling apart. So with the Rockets, we had Steve Francis. He kind of dove off, into whatever we had. Yao Ming, we didn't see Yao Ming getting injury prone.
Feel free to go back before then when you want to talk about the Rockets' decline, because half of their problem was they threw away their youth trying to do that whole "let's win now" philosophy. Because I never would have given away Robert Ory and Sam Cassell.
Yep.
I never would have did that because you gave away your youth. You gave away actually the core of what helped the team get those 2 championships.
Sam Cassell won a couple games in that playoffs.
Like I was dumbfounded by that. I was dumbfounded by that because I love Robert Ory. Got a chance to meet him his rookie year. Got a chance to meet Sam Cassell his rookie year. I thought them guys were going to be the truth for Houston for years. I mean, you had that set up. That's your rotation for the next 10 seasons. You're good. True. And they promptly on that, we winning. Let's push the envelope. Let's get it. Well, it's different ways that you can win. You can go through with that, strike while the iron is hot and win now, or you can push for that consistency and longevity. They chose to do it fast, get it quick. It kind of blew up in their faces. That's part of that whole thing because you got through and it kind of made them feel like a gambling addict where you got that one hot streak and you won big, but then you fell off and you was like, nah, I need to get that high again. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back on this hot streak. So you go through and you make those kind of knee-jerk reactions. You kind of make those, I'm really not thinking about 5 years from now because I think we can get it next year. That kind of thing. And it just snowballs after a while. The more that you do it, the more you put your team at risk of going through significant stretches of being bad or being mediocre as opposed to keeping them consistently in the mix.
Well, let's talk. Let me bring this one thing up. Let's fast forward 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. And let's pinpoint this conversation. Let's pinpoint this time. Let's see how far and how many championships and how well the Spurs do when you lost Duncan, Parker's out the door, Ginobili's about to be out the door. I want to see what the Spurs do. If the Spurs tell off and they really don't do nothing or don't win any championships, you can kind of see that the big three were the reason why the Spurs were as great as they were because the health of them. Because think about this, what Golden State has now is like a premature of what the Spurs have. If KD, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson can stay together, Golden State can last for the next 10 plus years if they can stay healthy. If you think about it.
And then the biggest issue is the KD that the Spurs signed just didn't work out in LaMarcus Aldridge. So
exactly.
They got their Longhorn.
And the funny part about that is that's still a work in progress. A lot of people, including myself, but me purely being a fan, I wanted him to get out because he played like trash for me in the playoffs. I was pissed, but that's just me being a fan, me having common sense and understanding. And it's not even a thing of comparing him to Duncan, but it's a thing of understanding that the Popovich system takes a while to learn. And the one thing that I give to him on the positive side is that Aldridge, he'll get in there and he'll give it the best that he can. But he has a certain mentality that he's used to always having that has to kind of change because he's used to being a 100% all the time focal point, and that doesn't really fit what the Spurs do. But to that end, people don't understand Popovich, R.C. Buford, the Spurs, his teammates are not about to sit and tell anybody, 128 wins and a conference finals trip is just terrible. We don't want LaMarcus no more. That's crazy. They're never going to do that. A lot of people may have wanted him gone. There's no way you're going to get rid of him. Now, unless they got somebody to bite on the let's get a top 5 pick or something like that, that's one scenario. But that's the business side of it. But at the end of the day, you're going to be much better off keeping him there than taking the risk of getting an unproven commodity or something that you cannot rely on in the same aspect as LaMarcus. The thing for the Spurs is their consistency is not only a testament to good coaching, good systems, sometimes the ball bouncing your way. I can go back to the first year that they won the title when they had to beat a tough Portland team in the playoffs, and it took that Sean Elliott tiptoe three-pointer from the side.
Just a comparison while you're talking about it. What is the best Spurs team you've seen? Like you personally, what year, what championship team, non-championship team? What's the best Spurs team you've seen?
The best Spurs team that I can say that was literally like the pinnacle as far as what the Spurs represent or what the Spurs want people to think of when they think about them would be the 2014 team.
Yep, that's the one.
The 2014 team, I don't care if you liked or disliked the Spurs, the way that they played basketball that year, literally, if anybody like honestly likes basketball, they thoroughly enjoyed watching San Antonio play basketball that season, because literally it was like you could just, not to romanticize it or bromanticize it, but I'm gonna do this shit anyway.
You gotta say it.
Like, you can set that shit to music. It was that pretty to watch. Like, you can set that shit to music. Like, literally. Like, everything was so fluid and so smooth. It was like those dudes were, like, mentally joined. Like, they were communicating through telepathy. Like, everything was flawless. When they were on, you would literally sit and be like, I can't think of a team ever that could beat them. Like, they were so in tune with each other and what it was they were trying to accomplish, because they had that huge chip on their shoulder from the way that they lost the year before in the finals. I knew that nothing was going to stop them from winning that title.
The way they dismantled the Heat in the finals was still the greatest thing I've ever seen. Because I've never seen
the biggest blowout in the history of the finals.
That ball movement was beautiful. Tony Parker with the up and under, Ginobili with the Danny Green was getting hot. People were getting hot from threes. I was telling me and DeMarcus, I'm so glad you said that, because 2014 Spurs was one of the 2014 Spurs, and then I would like to say the 2004 Detroit Pistons. That's just team. And then the 2011 Mavericks. Those are just pinnacle team basketball, and that's the embodiment of what basketball is. Nobody was unselfish in any one of those on those teams. Sure. When Dallas went off, I don't care what nobody said. Dirk became a Super Saiyan, in my opinion. He couldn't miss nothing. He was unstoppable.
That was Dirk's moment.
Everybody stepped up. Everybody rose with Dirk, and you saw the team ball that was being played. Same with 2004. Tayshaun Prince, Ben Wallace, it was beautiful, and the Warriors have that going now. That's why I don't see nobody being the Warriors, because I think they have the type of team ball and the unselfishness that wins championships, and I can't see. That's why I saw Cleveland getting swept, because I saw what the Warriors was doing. It's beautiful. It was Spurs 2.0. They were just shooting threes more than the Spurs.
And the funny thing about the Warriors, and that's one of the things that you can't help but tip your cap to, is the brain trust of the Warriors, the general manager, Steve Kerr, Mike Brown, all those guys and stuff like that. Their philosophy is basically by assimilation. You see concepts and pieces that they took from experiences in Cleveland, experiences in San Antonio, and they kind of took those things, and you can say, well, I see they kind of look like the Spurs 2.0, this, that, and other. Yeah, but no, because they put their own stamp on it, and they did it, and they put that own unique little spin on it, because they have such a unique lineup. And that's the thing that in their own way will always make them stand out over time, is the fact that they were a really legit team before KD. They were a special team before Durant. So adding Durant to that, it wasn't a thing of, we're acting out of desperation because we can't seem to get over the hump. It was we just figured that y'all needed a little bit more Lowry's on there because you wanted some more flavor on this bomb-ass dish we're about to serve up for y'all. You know what I'm saying? It was just one of those things where you knew that it was like, oh man, oh my God, this dude is, like they were already over, but it's like they're like super duper over now. It's like, the beauty of it and the frustration all in the same emotion is the fact that they didn't need KD, but it's just like, well, we got him. So, hey, get out there and do something, baby. Get out there and do something. Come get this ring light. We already got one. Come get in on the fun.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, they had it cooking. They were,
Woo.
they have a few. I don't see nobody really upsetting the Warriors, but hey, it's gonna be interesting
to
see what the Rockets gonna do.
The only thing that'll beat the Warriors is the Warriors, and that'll either be by somebody being unsatisfied, Klay Thompson, or if somebody gets hurt.
Yep, that's the only way.
I don't see, and that's the thing about it. Everybody think Klay Thompson, because of the skill that he has, that he's gonna be up and wanting to leave with Paul George today.
He's the most.
Well, no, not necessarily saying that he wants to leave, but I'm just saying in the natural progression of things, you're gonna look at how the pie is cut up. Klay is always going to end up with the smallest piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate him for being man enough and having the millennial way of thinking. And he's like, well, you know, I'm thinking more about rings and I don't mind being second or third fiddle, yada, yada, yada. But at some point in time, if you get enough wins under your belt, you go through. If you Klay Thompson, okay, they win the next 2 years. They win the next 2 years. After that, it's all about legacy and money.
Yeah, get your money.
And not legacy as far as the world is going to recognize him, because, I mean, you win 2 more, okay, you're a 4-time champion. Bam. I mean, it is what it is. But at that point, what is your personal legacy?
Get rid of Steph.
No. No. You'll have them set fire to that brand new building that they trying to.
Man, I see the greatness of Klay Thompson, and I'm just saying that Klay Thompson, Green, and Kevin Durant connection, man, that could be a thing of beauty, but hey, man, it is what it is.
But none of that works, because I lie Patrick Beverley, regardless of what you think of him, Steph Curry is the heart and soul of that Golden State Warriors team.
I kind of want to say Draymond, but
I want to say Draymond.
Draymond is the mouth. Draymond is the mouth. Draymond is not the heart and soul.
Draymond do a lot of dirty work, man.
He does a lot of dirty work, but as a whole, that's not reflective of the Warriors' personality, and that's why I say that Steph is more the heart and soul.
Pat Beverly does for Houston.
Exactly. Yeah. He, like Tony Allen is the heart of well, I guess Mike Conley kind of transitioning into that role now.
Having a prime defender means everything. I mean, look at the Spurs. If Kawhi Leonard didn't play defense like that, we talking about a different player.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Look at Dennis Rodman. Look what Ben Wallace did. Like, those defensive players, they mean a lot more than those offensive players. I feel like you can bring anybody in to throw up 10 threes.
And I feel you, but okay, well, who was the heart and soul of the Chicago Bulls team?
They don't got no heart. They still trying to find their heart.
No. I'm talking about the championship Bulls team. Who was the heart and soul?
They brought in Rodman, though. Come on now. It's Michael all day. They brought in.
That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is this. I understand where y'all are coming from the perspective, and I agree. But again, there's always exceptions to every rule. It's almost the same kind of setup. Yeah, we can talk about folks they had that was dogs, and whether it was a Horace Grant here or a Paxson there or a Kerr or a Rodman or Pippen throughout. You have many people that came in that you can look to and say, well, man, that was really like the heart and soul of the team and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, there's certain things you can't deny either. Regardless of sometimes saying that the heart and soul of the team can't be the most talented player because you want them to kind of be like the underdog or the guy that you don't look to. Well, sometimes that just ain't the case, and it is the dude that you look to. Michael Jordan was the heart and soul of them Bulls teams. Steph Curry is the heart and soul of them Warriors teams.
See,
it's just the way that it is.
I see Steph Curry this is the only reason why I differ on that one. I say he's the head of the team. You have the heart and then you have the head. Jordan was he was the type of person that he can move and be the heart and the head. He can be the whole damn body of the Bulls because he was transcended. Same with LeBron James. You can sit up there and say that Dwayne Wade is the heart of the Heat, but when LeBron James came in there, he became the whole damn body, and nobody was really caring about it because those were transcendent players.
Dwayne Wade career took a major backseat to them.
Exactly.
And I feel you on all this, but the only thing that I'm saying is this, and it's the eyeball test. When Steph Curry is on, the swagger of that team is completely different than when he's not.
But
that's all I'm saying.
But guess what? Draymond was suspended. He showed what on that time.
What happened to the squad?
And who won MVP of the finals this year? So
who fell apart? And then think about this. And I'm gonna even go back to the older teams. You can even talk about the Lakers. Yes, Magic was the head. Yes, Magic was the show of the Lakers, but we all knew Kareem was the heart of the team. Same with Boston. You want to go back and say that Bird was the heart of the team? He was the head of the team. The heart of the team was always McHale because McHale was the person that was grinding it out with you. You have your heads and you have your hearts, and then you have your transcendent players like LeBron and your Kobe's and I forgot Michael. I don't think that Steph Curry. I think he's replaceable. He shows that he's replaceable. When you sag on defense and you can't do the dirty work, you are expendable on my team. I can't look at Kevin Durant and say there's another person out there besides LeBron James that's better than what you do. Draymond Green, there's nobody better out there than what you do at the 2-guard position, or if you want to play the 3, guess what? Klay Thompson, there's nobody better than you. Maybe Kawhi Leonard. We're not getting Kawhi.
Oh, there's
Leonard.
No maybe.
Steph Curry.
There's no maybe.
There's other point guards you can go out there and get, and your cog still works. You can go get a Kyle Lowry.
Well,
you can get a.
The funny part about that though is just because of the basketball logic. Because when you go throughout history, name all of the elite point guards that have actually won championships. That's not a prerequisite to actually being successful in the NBA is having an elite point guard. More elite point guards have gone home ringless than ones have actually won championships. Because outside of Magic and Isaiah Thomas, Bob Cousy, I mean, name all the elite point guards that have rings.
Jerry West, or you can throw him in there, or you can talk about Steve Nash. He didn't really win no ring. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. It's not a prerequisite, but at the same token, you look at that, Steph Curry is the exception to that rule too. Because he is an elite point guard and he is winning championships.
Magic had Kareem, as he said, and Isaiah, they ain't shit without Lambeer and Mahomes.
Exactly. They was holding it down in the paint.
And I feel you, but this is the part that sometimes transcends it, because when you watch that 30 for 30 on the Detroit Pistons, you know without question, because everybody on that team told you Isaiah Thomas is the heart and soul of that team. I'm just saying. You go through and you ask them. If you go through and you ask Draymond and you ask Klay and you ask KD, they'll tell you Steph is the heart and soul of that team. I can't go against what the people that play with him say.
Man, I'm telling you, if Mike,
and we have our opinions, but I'm just telling. I just call it like I see it.
If Memphis called me one day and say, you know what, we'll give you Mike Conley for Steph Curry, I'm taking that in a heartbeat.
You crazy?
Goodbye.
You crazy?
Because Mike Conley can shut down. He can get with the best.
Do the same things that Curry
point guard.
Mike Conley,
and he can distribute the ball.
Mike Conley makes nobody step out to half court to defend him.
But guess what? If you watch the Warriors last year, who was really stepping out guarding the Warriors at half court? They weren't really shooting that many goddamn threes like they usually normally do. Steph Curry was.
Well, when you have a KD out there, you don't have to. It changes the complexion of the game. You got a Randy Moss to throw through now,
and that's why you don't need. That's why you don't need Steph Curry.
Oh no! See, Curry. But see, that's when you go through and you set yourself up for failure. If it's not broke, don't fix it, man. I'm telling you.
Okay, we gonna keep debating this.
We're gonna keep going back and forth. But
we'll talk about this later.
Oh yeah.
We'll put this on the back burner. But as long as you have Green, Durant, and Klay, I think you can do almost anything you want to.
Well, I mean,
I hear what you're saying.
It's like fussing over which car do I want to take out, the Lambo, the Maybach, the Rover, you know what I'm saying? I mean, okay, we're talking about 4 luxury cars in the garage, and you getting mad because I don't want y'all to pull out the Testarossa. My bad. My fault. My bad. I didn't know y'all wanted to go with the Rover today. I didn't know we was gonna have guests. My fault.
Ain't nothing wrong with having a good conversation, you know.
It's that time.
Now's the perfect time. Free agency right around the corner, and hey, next week I think the show is gonna be.
Oh my goodness! I think business is gonna pick up seriously.
And DeMarcus, there's one other thing. I know our basketball time is going further. We're gonna talk a little bit of. Can we talk about this Jimmy Butler trade? We didn't touch on that yet.
First off, Karl Anthony Towns in his third year is going to have the best statistical season of his career.
Yes.
And I only say that because he has the right pieces around him to dominate. Because you can't collapse on him.
But he won't though.
I don't really respect the jump shot of Wiggins and Butler, but just having 2 capable 6'7" plus guys on the wing, I feel like that's enough for a big man to dominate. I think he'll be able to get the touches. I know he'll get the minutes with Tom Thibodeau. Shit, they may get 48 minutes a game. They stay out there the whole time. But I think he's going to be able to dominate. I do think they're going to have to upgrade the point guard position. Just bring in another shooter. It really don't matter who they bring, but Rubio's not going to be able to get it done. But I like the direction for him. As far as where they'll make the playoffs, I feel like they have the ceiling of like a 6 seed right now.
I said that too, and the thing I like about this pickup, I heard they're trying to deal Rubio right now. So if they can get a So maybe San Antonio gets George Hill. If they can get like a Kyle Lowry,
they can get a Jeff Teague.
You get a Jeff Teague.
Jeff Teague wants to be a Knick.
Wow.
Man.
Why the
now that Phil Jackson is gone, that destination just got a lot more attractive. Don't sleep.
Like Phil Jackson was a major cancer, and a lot of people.
Yeah, that was the reason why a lot of people didn't want to go to New York. But now that he's gone, trust and believe.
Hey,
it's a lot of folks that want to play in Madison Square Garden.
He paid. I know that, man. He got paid.
Oh,
20.
They don't care about that. Yeah,
I still
they don't count against the salary cap, so they don't care.
I still don't see why people want to play for the Knicks. I mean, they're not that attractive. I mean, other than
you got to think about it for two reasons. Number one, like I said, everybody wants to play in Madison Square Garden, and number two, it's New York City.
But the Knicks haven't been good in almost 20 years.
It doesn't have anything to do with that. That's the mecca of basketball. That's all it is. That's all it is.
They're trash.
And the same can be said. Well, I mean, the same can be said for Houston, but Chris Paul here, right?
Hold on, man. At least
I put it out there.
We've been to a Western Finals. When is the last time the Knicks won a
playoff? The Knicks have been in the finals before the Rockets have. They went 99. Okay, when's the last time the Rockets were in one?
But when the last time they won a playoff?
When's the last time the Rockets were in one?
Are you serious?
I'm just saying.
Hey, we had a string of bad luck, man. Don't you put
we lost two Hall of Famers. Come on, man.
Hey, don't put the Knicks on.
The Rockets situation, the Knicks. Come on, bro. Come on, man.
That's the Knicks had to go through and battle. They battled their prime years, and they had to sacrifice. I mean, I'm just saying, it's all good. At the end of the day, I know that just like the Rockets, the Knicks are ringless for this century as well. So let's not throw stones. I'm just saying.
But I can throw stones because you can see what the Rockets are trying to do. You can see we're trying to. You don't know what the hell the Knicks trying to do.
I'm just poking fun, fellas. I didn't mean to get y'all all wired up.
I'm pressure up, but you good, baby.
Hey, look, we could. Hey, the only similarity we can have together is that we took D'Antoni and made him work what y'all fucked up at.
Whoa.
I guess. I mean, I don't know anything about raggedy coaches, so I guess I'll take y'all word for it.
He's not the greatest basketball coach of all time, dude. Anytime a coach is selected to coach the Olympics, you can't tell him nothing. Like that's
pretty much. I mean, like you have to forgive me because I have those moments where I get that snooty nose up in the air, looking down on you, common folks. Yeah, you know that blue blood kind of thing. You know, I just had a moment from time to time. I don't know what it's like to do that whole winning 40-something game. I don't know anything about that. I don't. 8 seed. I don't know any 8. What? 8 seed. I don't know.
You wasn't spending the mid 2000s wondering if we was gonna re-sign James Posey. Like that's the problems that I went through as a Rockets fan. Okay.
Yeah. We was keeping it gully with Steven Jackson.
Oh, we was biking on Jeremy Lin just about 8 years ago. So.
No, but my bad. Back to the Minnesota trade. How'd you guys feel about it overall?
Man, I think that it's working out really good for that young core. I think Thibodeau is putting those pieces together because I'm going to be really interested diving into that analytics side. I think that they have the best wing combo defensively in all of basketball now between Wiggins and Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Them wings is going to catch hell. They're going to catch hell. And I think that the person that's going to benefit the most offensively from all of this is going to be Wiggins.
Mm-hmm. His game gonna flow. It should open up.
Yeah, he has to improve on a couple of things.
It frees him up now, and it frees him up to do what comes naturally to him, and that's the transition game. They're gonna flourish more with generating turnovers with that lockdown defense, which comes to that transition game, which lets him get out on the break, which lets him do what comes more naturally. You kind of disguise the fact that he may not be the greatest shooter from distance, but man, if all he's doing is catching them steals and them outlet passes,
they can hold him once you get on that block.
Nah, he's got good size. He's got good size to go with it too.
I'm telling you this. I wish they had got Batum. I wish they can strike a deal to try to get Batum because Batum is the stretch that they really fucking need on that team.
They could put him at 4.
A Batum or a Wilson Chandler from
Denver. Yeah. Exactly. That's all they need. They need.
I kind of low key wish the Spurs would get Wilson Chandler.
I low key wanted the Rockets to get rid of Trevor Ariza and get Wilson Chandler.
Yeah, I do that all day.
He's an upgrade. He's a younger, faster, more versatile.
Same person though.
Yeah.
I wanted us to get Wilson Chandler, but he would slide in perfectly with that team, and then say that you threw money at like a Rodney Hood or something like that, or some one of those.
Hey, get a little sniper. Just get a little sniper.
With Denver, the 6 man, they got Will Barton.
Oh yeah,
get him. I mean, that's all you really need.
Just get your little sniper. Just get you somebody to get your little energy off the bench, a little shot up. You good?
10 points.
Hey man, they have a nice squad. They have good potential. I want to see what they're gonna do in the.
I think that they're going in the right direction.
They are.
And I think they're at the right time because the Clippers are about to.
They about to nosedive. The Jazz gonna lose. They're gonna lose Gordon Hayward, sadly.
It's looking like it.
And I hate that, man.
I love it.
I wish he'd stay.
Pat Riley is the smoothest dude in the world, and I would not turn down a meeting with Pat Riley. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man.
No. He already got that Justin Timberlake haircut, so you might as well go and get down to South Beach and make it pop off. It's so funny, man, because I remember the little Chili Bowl Brady Bunch haircut that he had when he was with Brad Stevens and Butler, and he looked all wholesome and whatnot. And then once his game started getting up, they was like, no, let's put that part on the side and let's comb it over. And then all of a sudden, every time you see Gordon Hayward on the court, you hear like "Suit and Tie" by Justin Timberlake in the background.
Hey, he fresh.
Like, he flies.
I think the joke I seen, they say he went from "I'll have your daughter home by 11" to "She calls me daddy now." Like this
man, and that's pretty much it.
Hey, that's the white hope right there, man. He
man,
Boston, man. I hope he go to Boston. If he go to Miami or he go to Boston, either way, it's still a win-win.
No doubt.
Build that empire in Utah, Gordon. You can have more than one wife there. Keep your sidekicks right, baby.
It's Utah and it's the West, and we talking about Miami, Pat Riley in the East.
But hey, I mean, you talk about another overachieving team too, though. Utah wasn't that bad this season, and they definitely can get better.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true also, man. Let's jump into this NFC East. Good basketball talk, fellas. But let's jump into the NFC East. I mean,
this beast.
Me personally, y'all seen my records. I'm kind of hard on the Cowboys this year as far as continuing their success from last year because I feel like their schedule's kind of matching up to where they can still dominate. They got a lot of cakewalk games, and they don't have they don't have a lot of tough back-to-back games other than toward the end of the season as far as I'm concerned. But
the beginning of their season is horrible. They can potentially start off this season really bad.
I agree.
You say that because you're a Packers fan. I know you.
No, I say this because I'm a football fan. It's no bias. I'm not a Cowboys hater. They're not my division, so I don't have hate for them like that. But the thing that I look at when it comes to the Cowboys is this: they have a lot of great things going for them. They are definitely trending upward. They are on the right track with a lot of things. The single biggest question mark that they have is the fact that you're going to have to do this in transition with a completely new secondary. In today's NFL, that is almost mission impossible. And when you start off with the Giants and the Denvers and the Arizonas and the Green Bays, I mean, you go through and you look at stuff like that. Because I'm telling you right now, I mean, as a Packers fan, yeah, I can sit and I can talk trash and stuff like that. But being honest, you telling me right now that you're going to put Byron Jones and 4 rookies out on the field against Aaron Rodgers?
Shit. He going to shred them niggas apart.
I'll take them odds, homie. And you're talking about a Week 5 game, not a Week 12 game where they've had time to gel.
4 out of the first 5 are in dome. And we're talking about a running team that's going to establish the run.
And that's all well and good, but you're talking about a team also. You're talking about a team also that snake bit against the Giants. Every year they start off against the Giants at home, they lose. You talk about a team that's only won once in 10 years against Green Bay, and that was last year.
That could change again, man. I think
that ain't gonna change again.
I think they can pull it off at home.
Okay, well, we talk about that, and we speak about them doing this at home like they have some sort of home field advantage. They've been just as bad on the road as they have at home.
Outside of Lambeau, no, you can't get that rushing.
They actually play better. They actually play better against Green Bay in Green Bay than they do when they play in Dallas. You can go back and look at their games.
They haven't had Zeke out there yet.
They had Zeke out there last year. He tore him up in Lambeau.
Last year, and when they won, I'm talking about the losses. They haven't lost out there at Lambeau with Zeke, even though it's just.
Well, they've only played once. I mean, they've only played once with Zeke out there, and
they haven't had him out there the past couple of years. You know what I'm saying? So,
but the bigger issue isn't going to be the bigger issue for them isn't going to be where they can pop off on offense. The bigger issue is going to be how fast can they get that chemistry and get themselves gelled on defense. Their offense isn't going to be a problem. We know exactly what we're going to get out of the Cowboys' offense. We do not know how well they're going to be able to hold up on the defensive end. You're talking about one of their main pass rushers that won't be there for the first 4 games of the season.
That's been like that Irvin. The last 3 years, though. They always missing defensive starters to start the year.
But man, that's the thing about it.
And you've seen the results the last 3 years. That's what I'm saying.
See, it's a lot of questions. See, with the Cowboys, it's a lot of questions going into the season because can't Dak hold this up? Is Zeke going to? Was that a flash in the pan first year that both of them had? I mean, we know it's not going to be true, but we know the offense is going to get. But and like he was saying, the defense. Like, what is their defense? You really think their defense is going to hold against half the games they have to play? And you didn't even
they don't have to stop them. But Dallas can put up 31 points and win the game.
The thing about it is this, though. You got to think about the way that Dallas plays offense, though. Dallas isn't Green Bay where they're going to sit and chuck that bad boy 55 times and throw in a shootout. They're going to have to do ground. They're going to have to do ground and pound and ball control. The one thing that works against Dallas as of right now is that everybody saw the playoff game that they just lost, because now you have the recipe for how to beat Dallas. The one thing that not even getting to the throw. You look at the overall concept of the game. They came out and they took the one thing away from Dallas that Dallas has their bread and butter the entire season. You can't. No. The biggest problem with Dallas and the way that their offense runs is that they're not a play from behind offense. If you jump out to an early lead, Zeke goes away, and then you have problems. That's how you beat the Cowboys.
You say the same thing with the Texans, though.
But you can say that about a lot of teams, really.
You can say that about a lot of teams, but we're just speaking specifically about Dallas right now. But that's one of those things that's a guarantee. They cannot play from behind because they do not put enough in that offensive scheme throwing the ball, because they're so predicated on that ground and pound that when they get put in them situations where they're down 2 or 3 scores, they will press. Their young quarterback will make mistakes, and they will turn over the ball. It's just football.
And you know what you said? And see, you said you worried about the beginning of the season. I'm worried about the tail end of their season.
The end is where it's going.
Their last 4 games. Their last 4 games I didn't even want to talk about. But I mean, they could go 0-4 in them.
You got the Falcons. You have the Falcons. The Eagles should be gelling around this time. If the Chargers are healthy, that's a toss-up.
Chargers are washed. Those last 4 games at the Giants, at Oakland, home for Seattle, and then at Philly. They could lose all 4 of them games. They can lose all 4 of them games.
But that's what I'm trying to see with this season. That's why they're like a coin flip season, because you can see it going one way, or you really can see it going really bad, because their schedule does not really favor a defense that needs to be retooled to the offenses that they're going to need to face, because
they have to work out that chemistry on defense. If their defense can gel quickly, if their defense can gel inside the first 4 games, they'll be fine. They'll go 11-5. They'll win the division. It's fine. If they have problems with that secondary being able to either stay healthy or communicate well enough to be able to play team defense, they're going to have a rough season.
I agree. I mean, I got them going 9-7.
I got them going 11-5 and winning the division.
Yeah, they coming off 13-3. I think their ceiling is going to be 12-4. Like I say, it's a couple games that they can easily lose.
There's some coin flip games in there. Yeah, there's a lot of coin flip games in there.
Man, you was talking. You gave me a prediction that could have 10 interceptions. He throw 10 interceptions. That's at least 3 games he's losing, because if he's throwing, that means he's throwing because they're behind.
And here's the thing for me: when it comes to Dak Prescott, I want people to understand and feel that they have to follow the Cowboy standard, and I mean the classic triplets Cowboy standard. In the way that Jason Garrett wants to have this team be run and succeed on offense, you want Dak Prescott not to have Aaron Rodgers' numbers. You want him to have Troy Aikman's numbers. You want him to have about 3,500 yards, about 25 or 30 TDs, because the Cowboys are that kind of team that if Dak Prescott throws the ball more than 40 times, they're probably going to lose. You want him to throw about 25 to 35 times. That means that ball control is working. That means that Zeke is controlling that clock. That means that everything is clicking on all cylinders. If Dak Prescott got to throw for 400 yards on 45, 55 attempts, they probably lost that game.
No doubt. And what you got, Marcus?
I mean, I just really saw... looking at their schedule, I just really see 7 losses. Like, I can see toss-up games, but I can't see them beating the Giants. They're losing 1 to the Giants. They're losing 1 to the Eagles. They have the Raiders.
I honestly think the whole division is going to split with each other.
That's what I'm saying. And you know what? I had that prediction too.
Yeah, I think that everybody in that division is going to split with each other. That's why I think that personally 10 or 11 wins is enough to win that division.
Because the only team that I have, because I'm just going to spitfire right quick. The only team that I have for sure, I can say I have given the edge to. I have the Giants because I just feel like the Giants have the offense and the defense to do what it needs to be done. I mean, they don't have the running game, but I mean, you don't have the running game, but I mean, Brandon Marsh and Odell Beckham, this is an unsung duo that's about to go out there, and I really think they're about to light up the field. I think,
and Brandon everything magnifies with that young secondary. See, that's the thing. When we think about it now, you think about all the quarterbacks that they're going to play. You think about all the wide receiver cores that they're going to play, and you think about that young secondary. And by no means am I saying that these kids can't get it together, get their shot off, and shock the world. They can because they got a lot of talent, ridiculous talent in that secondary, but it has to click. It has to work, and we won't know until it gets out there, and that's the biggest hurdle. But like I said, within those first 5 games, we'll know exactly where they stand as a defense. We'll know exactly where they stand, and it'll kind of line up what they got coming, down the stretch. But it's going to be key to see how fast those guys can get together and perform as a unit, because their pass rush is going to be one of those things that's really going to have to come in, and that makes that suspension even more magnified, because what's the best way to help out a young or inexperienced secondary? Great pass rush. If you got a good pass rush, you can make any secondary look good. But if your pass rush isn't hidden, it doesn't work. I mean, that was one of the biggest problems with my team last year. They went through and they did the breakdown and did all their stats and number crunch and stuff like that, and it's night and day difference when you have teams like that, like a Green Bay that had a terrible secondary, but when they got to the quarterback and they pressured the passer, they were the 5th best defense in football. When they didn't, they were the 28th best defense in football. It's just the way that it goes. But particularly when you have issues with your secondary, the best way to cover that up, if you're hitting that quarterback, it doesn't matter what your secondary is doing.
That's true. That's true. If the quarterback on his ass, they can't pass.
Yeah, you can't complete no passes if he on his back. I mean, it doesn't matter what we could all be out there running a nickel, and if dude is getting sacked every play, well, I'm going to the Pro Bowl. I don't care how it goes down.
Now, from a fantasy aspect, they got Dez Bryant going in the 2nd round. Can you see Dez Bryant going?
Dez Bryant going in the who?
2nd round. They got him going like 2nd round.
Not the way that Dak Prescott spread that ball around.
I mean, that's just his average draft position. I mean, but
I feel it, but for me, I'm
the drop off at receiver also, because after we go through Antonio, Julio, Beckham, and Nelson, you got Evans, AJ Green, then who? 9 times out of 10 is Dez Bryant after that, unless you
I feel that
guy or a Michael Thomas guy.
I feel that, but honestly, depending on what type of league that you play in, if I play in a point per reception type league and stuff like that, I'll take Cole Beasley before I take Dez Bryant.
And he's going into 14. So
I agree with that, but there's a player.
It just depends on what it is that you're looking for and what type of league that you're playing in. In the standard league, people are going to jump the shark and they'll go for a Dez Bryant, and they'll go by that natural thing. Oh, he's the number 1 for the Cowboys, this, that, and other stuff like that. But when you go through and you look at it, there's certain number 2s that can be just as good on other teams as Dez would be as a number 1 on the Cowboys team from a fantasy football standpoint.
But the thing is, Dez Bryant is a guy who's had 16 touchdowns. I've never personally, I'm putting it like this. I've never had a Cowboy on my fantasy team, any of my fantasy teams. I've been playing for almost 10 years. Hey, it's just one of those jinxy rules. I never had a Texas.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
But Dez Bryant has the potential to have 16 touchdowns, but is he worth it? It sounds like he's not in you guys' opinion.
I'll take
Dez Bryant, to me, I think is going to have a great year yardage-wise. I think he's going to break 1,100 yards in the system that they run. I think that he's going to be middle of the pack as far as receptions, which is a double-edged sword, because I think that his yards per catch is going to be high, but that means his receptions will be low. I don't see him catching more than maybe 75 or 80 balls.
He's going to shine on play action.
Besides Dez, me personally, the person that I'm going for in this division is Terrell Pryor. I don't care what nobody says. The reason why I'm going for Terrell Pryor.
We'll get to that. Yeah, he's one of my sleepers.
Dez is the type of person I'm taking like if I'm in the third, maybe fourth round. But if I'm in the second round, I'm not looking to get Dez Bryant. I'm looking to get either a running back or maybe a better wide receiver that can give me higher upside than what Dez Bryant can give me, because Dez Bryant is going to give me maybe, like you said, 1,100 yards and maybe he'll get to 10 touchdowns. I don't even see that happening.
That new kid from Carolina and Beasley are going to steal a lot of his touchdowns.
Exactly.
Right, if we coming up on the third round, you got Dez Bryant, DeAndre Hopkins, and Doug Baldwin. Who you getting?
I'm taking
DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh. I'm taking Doug Baldwin. The only reason why I'm not taking Hopkins is because I can see the Texans really using Fedorowicz a whole bunch this year in the red zone over Hopkins, because
I can feel that.
I can see Hopkins. Hopkins can give me the T.Y. Hilton type of thing. Like, he can give me the 1,300
without the 50-yard touchdown.
Exactly. Yeah. If he's not getting no long touchdown, I can't see him them going to him in the red zone.
See, for me, Baldwin is like the flash in the pan, because he'll get you that occasional long one and stuff like that. But with that two-headed monster, that they got right now in Seattle at running back, though, he's not going to get that many touches, especially in the red zone. Because with Lacy and Thomas Rawls there, that's going to take away opportunities from Baldwin.
And I said the same thing. I doubted Doug Baldwin because he had that good season 2 years ago, and then last year I doubted him. I said, you know what? If Doug Baldwin has a good year again this year, I'm gonna have to trust in that him and Russell Wilson has a good chemistry going. And I doubted him last year, and look what he did. He had a great season.
And don't get me wrong, I think that Baldwin is a viable fantasy receiver. I just wouldn't take him in the third round. I'd take him in the sixth, but I wouldn't take him in the third.
And then I look at the Seattle. I look at schedules when it all comes down to that. I look at whose schedule is more favorable, and I like Seattle's schedule. They have more. They're going against defenses that I can see Russell Wilson putting up points against.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I tossed that. That's why it's kind of a toss. But if you going just on straight on paper, then DeAndre Hopkins. But if you want to really break it down, I'm going Doug Baldwin. But neither one, you can't go wrong with either one.
No, and the other thing about it too, and that's a good point that you bring up, is the fact that one of the biggest things that makes it hard as far as me evaluating these teams in the NFC East and exactly how successful or how unsuccessful that they'll be is I look at the divisions that they have to play this year. They have to play against the NFC West and the AFC West. Neither one of those divisions are necessarily too easy to get through. So it presents those interesting matchups, and they already have a dogfight because there's a lot of talent in the NFC East. These teams aren't that far apart from each other as far as the talent goes and stuff like that. So that's why I say it's going to be a bloodbath. I see them all potentially splitting their games with each other. So you add that to the fact that they have to go through and play against the Raiders and the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Seahawks and the Cardinals. It's easy to see, a team making it out of there at 10-6, maybe even 9-7, winning that division, because they're going to face some significant teams this year outside of their own division.
True.
I agree.
And from a PPR standpoint, is Ezekiel Elliott still as enticing to draft? Say if you had the 3 or 4 spot, or would you want Antonio Brown or Julio Jones right there?
Ezekiel Elliott is a first-round draft pick.
No,
yes, and PPR, because guess what? If you got
the 4th pick and Ezekiel Elliott somehow fell because somebody took David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, and I guess Antonio Brown.
Yes,
you got Zeke right there with Julio Jones. You still taking Zeke every time?
I'm taking Ezekiel Elliott.
I'm taking Zeke.
I'm gonna tell you why, because Julio's gonna give me the touchdowns. He's not gonna get a lot of receptions this year, because look what Matt Ryan did last year. He spread the ball a whole lot, and I don't see that changing.
I don't know what offense they're going to run because their offensive coordinator ain't there. That's the one thing that kind of...
I know Kyle Shanahan is gone, but I feel like he's still going to spread the ball more. But with Zeke, if you look at what the Cowboys been wanting to do, they've been wanting to operate with Zeke out the backfield more. So that means it's going to be more lateral passes to him, a lot of more receptions. And you can see what Dak Prescott has done in a lot of his interviews. He saw that a lot of success that the Cowboys had last year wasn't no screen dump-offs to Ezekiel Elliott where he pick up the 10, 15 yards that no one really saw him doing. And I think they're going to start utilizing that year.
Which also takes away from Dez Bryant, which is why I wouldn't take him in the second round.
Exactly. There you go.
It all goes to taking away from that. That's why I don't even look at Dez as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football anymore, because they're so committed to spreading the ball around to the Wittens and the Switzers and the Beasleys and the Elliots out of the backfield. there's only so many balls to go around. And again, we know that Dallas isn't trying to throw the ball 50 times a game. So it's only so many touches that he's going to get.
And with that being limited as far as the passing is concerned, how many quarterbacks are you comfortable taking ahead of Dak Prescott?
A lot.
I'd go at least 6 or 7 deep before I consider Dak Prescott from a fantasy football standpoint.
I'm going 10.
10. Well, I can see that 10. I'm looking Rodgers, Luck, Brady, Breeze, of course.
Yes.
Ryan.
I'd take him over Luck.
Wilson. You take him over Luck?
Yep.
Over Luck?
No, they're going to lean on Luck this year.
Yeah, I understand what they're going to want to do, but can their line keep him from actually playing 16 games?
That is true.
Luck can't stay healthy because their line is terrible. That's why I don't trust Luck. That's why I don't trust Luck.
Take Luck out. Okay, then we got Kirk Cousins.
Yes. I'm still taking.
That's pretty even. That's pretty even. But yeah, I give a slight edge to Cousins. I'll give a slight edge to Cousins.
Stafford?
I'm taking Matt Stafford over him.
Andy Dalton?
Oh, yes.
I'm taking Andy Dalton because AJ Green's still gonna get his.
James Winston?
Yeah.
This year,
money.
Yeah.
Oh, that's money.
This year, yes.
Cam Newton?
Yeah.
No. I'm not taking.
I'll take Cam over him. Oh yes. They retooled them skill positions. Oh yes, I'll take Cam over him.
Oh, they got McCaffrey, so
I will take Cam over him. They actually have skill position players now.
Derek Carr?
Right.
Yeah, by a mile.
Phillip Rivers?
Yes.
No.
I'm taking Phillip Rivers because one thing you can.
I don't trust San Diego's offense enough to take Phillip Rivers.
Hey, I'm just gonna stop because that's like 12 names. Like,
guess what?
Guess what?
I can't take Phillips because he throws too many interceptions.
Let me tell you this: Phillip Rivers, since I think 2010, has finished in the top 10 of fantasy quarterbacks every year, and in the top 5. Like
he is a player you can get like the 12th round. There's gonna be a QB1.
You know he's gonna throw. He's always you can rely on that he's always gonna play, but he's gonna give you the interceptions, but he'll give you the 3-4 touchdown games and like 300 yards. So I'm gonna take
Phillip is one of those guys that it depends on what kind of league you play in. If you play in a standard league, okay, you can take your chances with him. If you play in a specialized league, IDP league, stuff like that, like the ESPN leagues that I run and I play in because I'm a fantasy football junkie. I've been doing this for about 18, 19 years since we were doing it on paper with the newspapers before it was even on computers and stuff. If you play in leagues like I do with IDP leagues and stuff like that, and the way that our IDP leagues are structured is that everybody's scoring is pretty much even. So a quarterback can have a great day and it's not going to sink your team because if your linebackers play good that day, they can score just as many points as your quarterback.
Exactly.
And when it comes to that, though, one of the things about scoring turnovers for quarterbacks are harsh in those kinds of leagues. And I can't take a chance with all those turnovers that Phillip Rivers gives me on the season.
I understand. It makes plenty of sense. It makes plenty of sense. But from a standard perspective,
on a standard perspective, yeah, I mean you can get Phillip as a QB2. I wouldn't take him as a QB1. He can get you again as QB2.
And then I also like Ertz over Dak this year because not Ertz, Winston. Wentz. I don't know why I call him Winston. I like Wentz this year because the offense
Carson
that they have. Yes, because they have Jeffries, Torrey Smith, who's going to open it up. Jordan Matthews is going. I think he's going to flourish now that he's not the number one de facto number one. He
won't break out, but he'll be good for their system.
Who's going to run the ball to make them respect the pass like that?
Yeah, Blunt.
Blunt is back there, and then you have Sproles.
You got Sproles. They got a couple bodies back there. They don't have a lot of talent, but they got.
I think one of the biggest problems is they have too many bodies back there. You got Blunt, you got Sproles, you got Wendell Smallwood. No. But see what San Diego does and what Peterson does in their offenses is two different things. And Blunt is good. He's that jackhammer. He's going to get him in and stuff like that. Is the one of the bigger questions to me is, do you trust LeGarrette to be your 3-down back? He had a great year last year for New England, but you look at those yards per carry.
They got Smallwood. They drafted Humphrey.
That's the thing. They got a bunch. They got that jackhammer, and then they got a bunch of scat backs. When you get them, and you got to play against those teams that are a little bit more physical, they get out there and they get after it a little bit more. It puts more pressure on Carson Wentz to have to do it with his arm. I'm not saying that they can't accomplish it.
But LaShawn McCoy and what was the guy? Deion Lewis. Those are scat backs, and they made it work. So it's possible,
It's possible. Don't get me wrong. And LaShawn, I would never call a scat back. He's just a fast running back.
He needs to make a return to Philadelphia. He's the missing piece. If he comes back, that's like LeBron James coming back to the
Man,
Cavaliers.
that was they bad. I always hated that move.
I'm telling you, if he
I
comes
always
back,
wondered why they did that, but yeah.
With that team that they have now in place with LaShawn McCoy, they can afford him. If they can get him by some type of way, Buffalo's not letting him go. I'm just being honest with you.
Not gonna happen.
I'm saying if that was a hypothetical that they can get him, they are a threat.
And at this stage in his career, is Jason Witten not a viable fantasy option anymore?
No, because they have what's his name? What is the backup tight end?
In a PPR league, he is.
Who's the backup tight end? Escobar.
Is Escobar still there?
Why don't they use him anymore?
Because it's Jason freaking Witten.
But Escobar.
That's why. Because Escobar ain't better than Witten. He can't beat him out.
Tony Gonzalez was out there running those slow routes, but he still got targets.
Yards, you're right.
And I mean, the one thing that you got to remember when it comes to Jason Witten, like all of my family and some of my best friends that are all Cowboys fans love to refer to him as, they call him Blanket, as in security blanket. Yeah, he was the same thing for Tony Romo. He's the same thing for Dak at this point. When you have somebody that's that rock solid, that knows that offense like the back of their hand, knows exactly where they need to be, at what point they need to be at it, where the ball's going to be, wherever. Like, he's like having an extra coach on the field. They're not going to sacrifice that, and it's going to get him that attention. Now, will he ever be a touchdown guy? Hell no. He'll get you receptions, though. He'll get you good yardage for a tight end. But that's the one thing. When it comes to the red zone, they're throwing slants to those little guys. Beasley on the fade to Dez Bryant. They're not going to go through. They very rarely go through and look at Witten when it comes to the red zone. And it's so funny to me because the dude is basically a fast-ass offensive lineman. Because you're talking about a dude that's like 6'7", 6'8", 280 pounds. Like, he's a fucking freak of nature. People don't really give him props like that. Like, for what he's been able to accomplish at that size, that's amazing.
The longevity.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, the longevity. Definitely. But yeah, I mean, as far as old tight ends, I
think we lost
half of the year is Antonio Gates. Like, that's it. Because at least he's going to get opportunities in the red zone versus a Witten. That's if you're looking for a tight end, you just don't want to draft him. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You go through, you get an Antonio. He's always, that was his hallmark. Jason Witten was noted for, the third down catches, the moving the chains. Antonio Gates was known for that fade route when you got inside the 20 because they was gonna go for that red zone touchdown pass.
No doubt. All right, man. Let's move on to the Giants. Finished at 11-5 last year. What kind of record y'all see them having this year?
I got them at 10-6, just a game back from Dallas.
Yeah, I got them at I think I had them at 11-5. No, I have them at 12-4.
Oh, look at you!
I'm high on Dallas. Oh my Lord, look at that! So much Dallas talk today on my mind.
Look at you!
I'm high on the Giants this year because I'm sold on a defense. I love the Giants defense. What they did in the latter half of the season last year was amazing, and the thing that they added, Brandon Marshall, he is Odell Beckham mentor. I'm telling you, they're both mirror images of each other. We hope.
We don't hope. There's better mentors to be had than that.
No, the only reason why I like Brandon Marshall because he has calmed himself over the years. How he was out of control in Miami and Denver, and then with the Broncos, blah blah blah. And I think that he can mature and settle down Odell and let Odell. He's really going to allow him to flourish because just those offensive weapons that they have, I can't see. Eli can throw the worst pass possible, and they still gonna turn into something. Odell catches the impossible. You know how Brandon Marshall made Fitzpatrick look. Yeah. Sterling Shepard,
Evan Ingram.
They just got that tight end. I can't think of his name.
Evan Ingram.
There you go, right there. I'm telling you, I'm high on the Giants. I see him losing to the Bucks. I'm high on the Bucks. I see him losing to the Seahawks, maybe the Cowboys one time, and the Raiders. But that's going to be a good shootout against the Raiders.
No Seattle?
You said no Seattle. I saw him losing to Seattle.
No Kansas City?
Nah, I can't see him losing to Kansas City because Kansas City, the offense, what offense do they have?
I mean,
like,
you know,
me and DeMarcus talked about this. Like, no Jamal
outside
Charles,
of
no
outside
more
of flashing names, there isn't a whole ton of difference between either one of these teams' offenses.
What? Who in the Chiefs and the Giants?
I mean, who's really gonna stop Tyreek Hill on that Giants defense? I
Okay,
mean, he's just as
Tyreek
electric with the ball. He's just electric with the ball in the open field like OBJ.
But he can't move and run a whole bunch of routes. Like, he's more the deep route, and that's how he rolls, or a good dump off, and he take it to the house.
And we're talking about a Kansas City team with a pretty decent secondary. So at that point, if the secondary is doing their job and they're kind of holding Eli at bay, what part of the running game for the Giants is going to break that game open?
See, that's the thing. That's the
who isn't running the ball that's going to break that open?
That's the weakness.
And that's exactly why I asked about Kansas City and teams like that can play against them in that passing game. They don't have that run game to keep teams honest. That's their biggest hurdle.
And that's the thing that I don't understand what the Giants are doing right now. I don't know who they're looking at or who's the potential person to grab, because I thought Latavius Murray was the person that they were going to get.
They're going with Paul Perkins. That's who they're going with.
He was not good. Well, you know, he was better.
He was hurt.
He was okay toward the end.
He was all right once he got healthy.
Then they finally got to bring in Wayne Gallman. I mean, that's just another body. I mean, we know the kind of system that he played with at Clemson, so he's used to volume. So, I mean, I think they got a couple good pieces, but it's really no elite running backs in this division outside of Ezekiel Elliott to me.
Exactly.
Well, there's about to be.
Samaje?
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that later.
We on the same page.
Yeah, bro. It's a market thing. I guess it's just a mind meld between all the Marcuses. Oh, yes. I think that kid is going to be a star.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be nice. And I was telling some boys about that earlier, about you really need to watch for the Redskins. I really want to just hurry up and go past the Giants so we can talk about the Redskins.
I mean, there's still a lot of meat that can end up on our teams as far as the Giants. Because if Brandon Marshall,
I forgot about the fantasy.
If Brandon Marshall was to fall, I don't mind picking him up. Say right now he's going in the fifth, like late fifth.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's pretty much where he's supposed to be.
That's exactly where he should be. So,
because honestly, the odd man out that everybody is automatically ignoring, who I think is actually going to end up having a really good year, is going to be Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, because it's going to open up. That's going to take a lot of coverage off of him, and he's going
to act a fool in that slot.
Yeah,
he's going to get it done in that slot.
Let me throw this one out to you guys. You got 5th round coming up, Brandon Marshall or Martavis Bryant.
I'm taking Brandon Marshall.
I'm taking Brandon Marshall because with Martavis Bryant,
I don't trust Martavis.
I don't either, and that's the thing about it is I'm more reliable in what Brandon Marshall. And especially after the season that Brandon Marshall had last year.
Yeah, Brandon Marshall is dialed in. He's focused. Not about
to do that.
Yeah, he's dialed in. He's focused. He's going to give you 110% every single game. I don't know what Martavis be thinking about half the time because literally he's pretty much just like Mike Wallace 2.0 on the Steelers team. If they don't throw it to him deep, they're really not going to throw it to him at all. They'll throw it to Brandon Marshall 2 yards up, 5 yards up, 25 yards up. I mean, I get more opportunities. I'm going to get more targets with Brandon Marshall than I will with Martavis Bryant.
And with no running game, you know the Giants are going to try to go to him in the red zone.
Oh, he's all right. I don't care if he had 55 running backs on the team. They'll still go to Brandon Marshall in the red zone. He's one of the best red zone targets in the NFL to this day.
On a bum ankle, he caught 3 touchdowns against the 49ers when Jay Cutler was
when he's locked in, when Brandon Marshall is locked in, there are not too many wide receivers that are better than him.
You know what? You know what? We're gonna bring you on more often.
Oh, hey, this is what I do, man.
I'm about to send him over the contract, you know. So
hey, man, we can make it a triple shot of Marcus, man. We can make the same pop. We can just make it a triple shot of Marcus.
Let me throw one else out there for you guys. In the first round, middle of the first round, Marcus, I'm gonna leave one name out because I know who you're gonna pick. But we're gonna say AJ Green, Odell Beckham, and T.Y. Hilton.
Oh, that's Odell all day for me.
Odell consensus?
Ooh, I'm going AJ Green, man. Especially coming back off an injury, you know. I mean,
they're going to take touches away from him with the running game, though, because now they have a 3-headed monster with Giovanni Bernard, Jeremy Hill, and Joe Mixon. And they're going to run the ball a lot more.
I left Mike Evans out, Marcus, because I know you're a Mike Evans guy.
Galveston Ball, baby. Galveston Ball all day.
I feel like we all are. That's what I think.
But I would still take Odell. Even if Mike Evans was in there, I'd still take Odell.
You take Odell over Mike?
And here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. I like the big body. I like the red zone presence from Mike Evans.
Had me concerned last year.
But the one thing that I would gladly roll the dice on with Odell is one of the best yak people in the business.
Oh yeah,
Odell will turn that 5-yard slant to an 80-yard touchdown in a heartbeat. And there's very few guys that you can really say that about consistently in the NFL at wide receiver. So from that standpoint alone, for a fantasy standpoint, oh yeah, I'll take Odell all day long. If I'm trying to go out there and win some ball games, Mike gonna line his big ass up right there on that inside slot, just the shade inside to make the safety nervous, and we just playing that jump ball, baby. He's getting down in the block and catching this jump ball.
In a PPR league, I'm taking Evans, man. They're gonna pepper him. Jameis Winston is dedicated to give him the ball.
But see, they're going to spread it around this year because they got so many options and they got so many over-the-top options. When you got Mike Evans holding you down on the possession side, but you got a Chris Godwin on one side and you got a Deshaun Jackson on the other side, man, blowing the tops off those defenses, it's going to be a thing where Mike is going to get a ton of targets, but I don't think that Mike is going to have the yardage because of the fact that they got those two deep threats like that. I think Mike might catch like 100 passes this year, but he might catch 100 passes for 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns.
That's what I want. That's why I'm in the PPR. I want Mike Evans with Odell. That ball's moving around.
But with Odell Beckham, Odell is gonna catch just as many passes, but he'll probably have 1,600 yards. They're gonna throw to Odell no matter what.
Man, I see Brandon Marshall really eating in the Odell.
But you know the funny part about that though, you can go through, look at the number of receptions that Sterling Shepard had last season. Look at the number of receptions they had, and they still. You had Sterling Shepard that had 60-something receptions. You had Odell still had 101 catches.
But think about this. You remember, you got Brandon Marshall. That's another mouth to feed. They got the tight end. You still got Shane Vereen coming back. That's a lot of people you're gonna be dumping that ball to.
Now tell me this: with Shepard being the third option, would you feel more comfortable with a number one receiver on a poor passing attack like a Robert Woods, or would you still feel more comfortable with Sterling Shepard? Or what about a second option like Marvin Jones?
A second option like Marvin Jones, I would take over Sterling Shepard simply because of the fact that I know what he's going to do playing in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
You have Stafford that's really, really taking his game up to another level, and if their running backs can stay healthy and that line can stay healthy, Marvin Jones is probably going to catch a grand in about 85 passes, especially since Anquan Bolden is gone. Especially since Anquan Bolden is gone. I mean, the opportunities are there for him. All he has to do is just go out there and do it. I can't say the same for Sterling Shepard because of the simple fact that there's so many options in that passing offense. And I'm very familiar with that offense because their head coach was running the passing offense for Green Bay. I know what they like to do. I know they like to spread it around. I know they're not going to necessarily lean, quote unquote, on any receiver. But if a receiver gets leaned on in that offense, it's going to be Odell Beckham.
Man, that nosedive that Marvin Jones did last year, man. I'm sorry. I would never draft him.
That's my Ryan Matthews.
Man, that drop off was something serious, and I can't trust a drop off like that.
No, that's crazy.
I can think that you might want to come back and have a better year, or you might want to have a better year, but I don't know if he's going to have the type of year that I want to take over Sterling Shepard because for instance, we said with Brandon Marshall taking pressure off of open up the lane, with Odell opening the lane. Sterling Shepard's gonna get him,
but it's not like he got the middle to himself because Evan Ingram is a big ass receiver.
Evan Ingram is a big ass receiver, but I think that they're going to use Evan Ingram more vertically. If they use him in the passing offense, they're going to use him more vertically. They're going to use him to stretch out.
You're right.
Or I'll put it to you guys like this because he has that identification and I can see the familiarity when it comes to the offense. They're going to use Evan Ingram in that offense the way the Green Bay used Jermichael Finley. He's going to stretch the field. He's going to run seams. Sterling Shepard is going to eat underneath that zone all day long. Sterling Shepard will probably finish in the top 10 on third down catches in the NFL for first downs when the season is over with. Remember that I said it.
If you like, honestly, if you like Cole Beasley and what he did last year, then I have the faith. That's the faith I have in Sterling Shepard because I think
exactly. It's that similar type of role.
Yeah. 800 yards. I can see Sterling Shepard getting 70 yards maybe, and he might luck up and get maybe 6 or 7 touchdowns. I trust that Marvin Jones.
And
man,
let's not get it twisted. Eli was pretty comfortable throwing to Shepard as a rookie in the red zone. He actually scored quite a bit in the red zone to be a rookie.
And he did the most in the playoff game of the trio.
Because, I mean, we think about it. He didn't have 700 yards last season. He only had 65 catches, but he had 8 touchdowns.
So, hey, man, that's something to look at. Yeah, something to look at. But, man, the Redskins are the type of team that I think that we need to start talking about. I think they're a team that's going to get slept on this year, but I think they're a fantasy bonanza going on over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of sleeper options when it comes to Washington.
DeMarcus there? Where DeMarcus at?
Don't tell me we lost 1/3 of the Marcus crew.
I think we did. But let's go ahead and go. What do you feel? How do you feel the record of the Redskins going to go this year?
The Redskins are my kind of default team because somebody has to finish last. I have them at 8-8 though.
Dang, that's the same thing I have them at.
Yeah, I have them at 8-8 though. I think they're gonna have their ups, they're gonna have their downs. And for me, the biggest thing about the Redskins is there's nothing that they're really great at, but there's nothing that they're really terrible at either. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those kinds of things. It's just literally like their entire season is a coin flip.
And the thing I liked about the Redskins I like to pick up a Terrell Pryor because I think that's they needed somebody, a quote unquote, I guess, a number one wide receiver to alleviate some pressure so Crowder can operate and do the things that he was flourishing in last year. So I think that's going to help their offense out. I really want to take a look at their defense and see if that's going to pan out because that's going forward. I think they can easily grab a few more key pieces on the offense, but I think their defense is the thing that I want to look at this year because I like the moves that they made.
Yeah, they've made some significant improvements in the defense. One of the biggest things for them, though, and it's one of those things that I suffer from as a Packers fan, it's always difficult when you play with a 3-4 defense. Your back 7, your back 8, depending on how you want to do it, has to be on point. Your linebackers have to be solid. They have to be able to fill those gaps. They have to be able to make plays all over the field. That secondary has to be able to get out there, lock down on opponents. You know, they tend to be out on an island a little bit more in a 3-4 than on a traditional 4-3. So from that standpoint, you have to have the capable bodies. You have to have the people that'll be able to actually get out there and do the job. Secondary is going to be interesting to see how they develop. I like the corner combo of Breeland and Josh Norman. I think they're underrated as a duo.
Very underrated.
Their safeties are going to be a concern. As it looks right now, they'll probably start with Will Blackman at one safety spot and then old Texan alumni DJ Swearinger at the other spot. It has the potential to have good plays. Both guys are rangy. Both guys are talented as far as being able to get from sideline to sideline. Blackman is pretty solid on the read and diagnose. DJ Swearinger, as we're all familiar with, will knock your head off just because he can. But sometimes that puts him in situations where he goes for the kill shot and sacrifices making the play. So from that standpoint, it works out a little bit different. The defensive line, I mean, they'll make strides. You go through, you got McClain there, you got Jonathan Allen out there. They got talent, they got size to be able to fill those gaps because you need the big guys out there on the 3-4. Their linebackers, the biggest issue with them is staying healthy. I like the group that they have potentially to start with Preston Smith, Ryan Kerrigan, if he can stay healthy. Mason Foster, who we all know is a tackling machine, if he can stay healthy. You go through and you look at those guys. It's just a thing of, can they show up? Can they put pressure on the quarterback? Can they be consistent in trying to get teams off the field for 3 and outs and not let them have extended, sustained drives? A lot of times the Skins got bit, like a lot of teams that go through those growing pains where your lights out for 2 downs and then you give it up on 3rd down. It's like, man, we had them. It takes
the energy out of the
and now you're out there for 9 more plays, and now you're out there for 5-6 more minutes. So now you've got more fatigue going on. And after a while, you know, it's basic football. If the defense is out there too long, I don't care who you are.
Exactly.
Take that L.
And the thing about the Redskins that I wanted them to do is they need to finish in the red zone better. And I like the draft pick that we were just talking about is the running back that they just
Oh man, Mr. Samaj.
Man, Samaj, he looks really good out there. And pair him with Robert Kelly, just really challenge each other.
Robert gone.
Oh, you said he gone.
Well, he ain't gonna be there too much longer. I think Chris Thompson literally gonna be the third down back that they need, that scat back, and somebody's gonna come in and bring the pain because that's what he did at Oklahoma.
Exactly, but I think they're gonna work that three-headed. I think they're gonna work that three-headed monster out there. If one thing we've learned about the NFL right now, with very few exceptions, Dallas being one of them, it's literally almost impossible in this day and age to just go with two running backs. You literally have to have three. You have to have three that you can rely on because you're going to have injury. You're going to have one of them running backs. You're going to have one of them running backs that's going to be your scat guy, your third down guy. You're going to have one of those guys that's going to be your workhorse. And then you're going to have that one guy that comes in because he can block like nobody's business on third down and keep your quarterback from getting killed on the blitz.
So they're gonna cycle. I think their running back situation is gonna run how like the running backs for the Raiders did last year. How each one can come in and really put a stamp on the game on different time zones.
Yeah.
I think eventually they cut that pie up and Samaj gets 60%, Thompson gets 20%, and Kelly gets 20%.
Man,
and it's like that because it's gonna be a lot of passing. They easily gonna hit 4K, maybe 4,500 yards.
Oh yeah, Kirk Cousins is gonna hit that 4K.
And that's why I'm high on Terrell Pryor, man.
Is that the only receiver you hire on? Because I'm
high on Crowder.
I like Crowder. I like Crowder too.
Because he's gonna work. Him and Crowder had a nice connection, especially in the end of the year when Deshaun Jackson kind of tailed off some, and Jordan Reed got hurt. Crowder was really the one reliable thing on that offense. Robert Kelly was too, but Fat Rob was too. But
sometimes when he didn't fumble,
yeah. Who we talking about? Crowder?
No, Kelly. When Kelly didn't fumble,
yeah. And put down Jordan Reed on that list of super sleepers because if he can stay healthy, he'll probably be a top 3 tight end fantasy wise.
That's the big if because he's never healthy.
He's going to rack up the touchdowns if he stays healthy.
Yeah, but I'm high on Terrell Pryor for that. He's going to fill in that good Pierre Garçon type of role, and I think that he's going to be a good go-to threat in the red zone. I think that's going to shore up. I think he shores up a lot of the gray areas that the Redskins faced last year, as we were just talking about earlier, of them finishing the red zone. It seems like they just could not get the ball in the end zone in the first part of the season. I think Terrell Pryor does open that because he's a big body, and he showed that last year with the Browns that he can get up there and get them 50-50 balls. And I think he wants to show a lot of these players that, he is a legit wide receiver, and last year wasn't just a flash in the pan type of season.
Would you take Terrell Pryor, Devontae Adams, or Sammy Watkins?
Give me Terrell. Give me Terrell Pryor.
That's a tough one because they all one guy.
Well, no, it's only a 2-man race. I'm not taking Sammy Watkins for anything. I'm not taking Sammy Watkins at all because he can't stay healthy. I'm not taking him at all. It's just down to Devontae and Terrell at this point. At this point, I would say Terrell because Terrell is going to get number 1 targets.
Targets, yes, sir.
I think Terrell is going to get that significant attention in the red zone.
If Reed is there, he won't. That's the biggest.
Well, no, and you have to look at it to where you say, okay, he may not in that situation with Washington, but you talking about that magician over there in Green Bay who will literally throw to anybody on any down at any distance. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that Devontae is going to get those red zone touches.
True. And
we've seen plenty of games last year, and it's no slight to Devontae. We've seen him have plenty of games last year and over his career where he's had 9-10 catches, 140 yards, but no touchdowns because they've all been middle of the field. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. He's not going to be that guaranteed red zone target in Green Bay. Jordy Nelson is going to be your number 1 target. Bennett is going to be your number 2 target. Geronimo Allison is going to be your number 3 target in the red zone. And then you'll get to a Randall Cobb and Devontae Adams. That's the thing that makes it so difficult. That's why I say I'd take Pryor as well, because he's going to get that number 1 wide receiver treatment in Washington.
On that same team, Jamison Crowder, Willie Snead, or Stephon Diggs.
Say that one more time.
Jamison Crowder.
Whoa. Stephon Diggs is in Washington?
No. I'm just playing.
Because you said on that same team. I was about to say, what? Well, we about to really win the division now. They ain't got no receivers in Minnesota. Never mind.
So Jamison Crowder, Willie Snead, or Stephon Diggs?
I'm high on Willie Snead, man. Willie Snead. He gonna fit in that number 2 role. You don't like Willie Snead?
I do, but I don't like any of those names more than Stephon Diggs. Not in Minnesota's offense.
Man, I don't know, man.
Stephon is a number 1. I mean,
he's a number
for a quarterback that made 20 touchdowns.
Stephon is that sneaky number 1 in the regards of the fact that
Golden Tate
he's a number 1, but people still pay way more attention to that big white boy on the other side, Thielen.
Oh, Thielen. But think about this. So you have Michael Thomas. You have no Brandon Cooks anymore. Willie Snead is going to fill in that Brandon Cooks role because you saw the chemistry that Drew Brees was having.
He can't. He doesn't have the physical skill set to. He's not going to get you them breakaway touchdowns like Brandon Cooks. That's not going to happen. He'll get you a lot of catches, but he's not going to get you them breakaway long touchdowns like that.
The thing is, I don't think not Green Bay. New Orleans needs that because you have AP, you have Mark Ingram.
No. Now don't get me wrong.
Is there?
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they need that in order to be successful. I'm just speaking from fantasy football purposes. I'm looking for scores. I'm looking for big. Okay. He's not going to give me them big scores like Brandon Cooks.
Touchdowns. I'm a book Thomas for like 12 to 14 touchdowns.
Not going to happen.
You don't think Michael Thomas?
It's not an aggressive tight end that's going to dominate the red zone like Michael. I think
it's not even a thing of that. It's a thing of Drew Brees spreading the ball around. It's a thing about now
could be a problem.
Now more than ever, I think you're going to see Sean Payton diversify that offense, and there's going to be a lot more passing to. There's going to be a lot more passes to running backs now. Don't underestimate the receiving skills of one Alvin Kamara coming out of Tennessee, playing for New Orleans as well.
And they drafted him knowing they had Adrian Peterson and Ingram.
But don't sleep on the chemistry of what Drew Brees likes.
No.
I think big body in the middle of the field because you look what
remember
Marcus Colston.
Henson was a fantasy sleeper for years.
Marquise Colston was a sleeper. Michael Thomas.
Marquise Colston was a sleeper, but Marcus Colston was a sleeper when it came to PPR leagues because he suffered from the same problem like Jason Witten. He used to get a ton of yards, but he never got that many touchdowns.
Well, you had Jimmy, you had Ingram. I mean, not Ingram. You had
other folks. You had other folks out there that were taking away touches and stuff like that. But with all of that talent that they're putting back there in that backfield now, it's going to take away. They're going to dial down on the let's throw 60 times a game because Drew Brees will not be able to last 16 games at this stage of his career slinging the ball that much. They're going to be a little bit more precise and a little bit more contained with what they do on offense. They're going to have a little bit more structure to kind of save that arm string for them. And that's why I say the running backs are going to get more involved in the screen and play action game, receiving passes and stuff like that. It just takes away from what the wide receivers get as a whole. I'm not saying that Thomas isn't capable. I just don't think that he'll have enough opportunities to get it.
DeMarcus, you know what we need to do? We need to bring Marcus in on the fantasy one that we're going to start doing. Yeah. And we're going to start a game of over and under, and we're gonna start taking score of this because I'm gonna go with that. I feel like Willie Snead is gonna have a better season than Stephon Diggs, and we gonna
this is the first official bet. All right, are we talking fantasy points? Because we got to decide what league, and are we talking?
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what
are we just talking about numbers? Period.
No, this is what we're gonna mark this down. We're gonna bring you into the fantasy show, and that's one of the bets that I want to do when we decide what standard league or we're gonna do PPR or what. We're gonna have that bet.
Okay, now what are we betting?
I don't know what we're gonna bet. We got to decide that too.
I guess
I love food.
Okay, well there we go. We can.
I love food.
Done.
There we go, right there.
We will have to sit and have our end of the year fantasy football show, and we'll have to do it on location at whoever wins the bet, wherever they want to go eat, and we'll just sit, chop it up, and go over who won, who lost, and have some great food in the meanwhile.
Hey, I'm good with that bet.
All right, if we're talking about young running backs, would you guys definitely want Samaje Perine over Dalvin Cook?
Hell no.
No, I don't know. I don't think about that.
Hell no. I'm not going to go through definitively with that, and that's why I say hell no. because of the simple fact that it's two different situations.
Mm-hmm. They both could take over. They both could take over.
Is going to have a lesser path of resistance to getting to the front than Samaj is.
Samaje.
Because
you think so with Latavius?
There's no guarantee that Latavius is going to be healthy to even start the season.
Exactly. He is a very...
So, I mean, right there, and I'm telling you right now, if Murray ain't out there for week 1 to try to hold down his quote-unquote starting spot, he ain't going to get it back.
No.
He ain't going to get it back.
And that's a dome team now. That makes a big difference.
I'm biased as all get out, and I know it's my rival, and I'm going to end up having to hate him in public and love him in private. But when I tell you that kid on that track in that stadium is going to be super duper electric.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I can agree.
Like they say on the old Maddens when they was low key racist. He's got that get away from the cop speed. Oh, it will be on full display in Minnesota, brother. That kid, as long as if he's locked in and he's focused and he's taking a hold of it, which I have no doubt that he is. I really love what he brings to the table and to that offense, unfortunately, because it makes my bitter rival get even better. But I think he's going to light it up this year.
All right, and we got Jordan Reed or Travis Kelce?
Travis Kelce. Man, Travis Kelce is going to
be here. Shut your mouth up, Travis.
We already know.
I can see Travis for at least 14, 15 games. Travis, by default.
For some reason, Jordan Reed is still going ahead of Travis, and people know that they don't got Jeremy Maclin no more.
Well, that's people gambling. That's people gambling on the fact that Jordan Reed can stay healthy. Because again, if Jordan Reed stays healthy, he's going to light it up. It's
definitely more passing yards in Washington than it'll ever be in Kansas City. So
oh yeah, and it just goes to the way that they play. And that being said, Maclin not being there doesn't really work in Kelce's favor.
It really doesn't because now it's gonna be way more
bodies on him. Yeah, it's gonna
be now I'm gonna just have a safety. I'm gonna just have a safety corner on one side to guard that little buzz bomb Tyreek Hill.
And Chris Conley may be fast, but
everybody else is gonna be paying attention to Travis Kelce until old boy come out there and make some catches and make them respect him.
And you're right. And then Jamal Charles not there, so that's another threat. That's another.
Although I like the kid that they got, Kareem Hunt. I think he's going to end up being front of the line as far as toting the rock for them.
Once we get the AFC West, I think it's going to be my little sleeper for that division right there.
But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about my Eagles.
Oh, these good old Eagles finished.
Oh my God, you're an Eagles fan?
Oh yeah, man, I've been an Eagles fan since.
Oh goodness.
Hey, don't get me wrong. The Eagles.
You cost my coach's perfect record.
I fell in love with the Eagles in the early 2000s. Brian Dawkins,
exactly.
Bobby Taylor, Michael Lewis, talking about Hugh Douglas, Jermaine Kirk. Like I love that.
They was all right.
Come on, don't get them all right.
They was okay.
Andy Reid just
I'm gonna be honest and transparent with y'all. I'm gonna be straight up and straight down, and I'm gonna just let you know. It's two reasons why I can't give Eagles love like that. Number one, they ruined my coach's perfect record. Vince Lombardi's only playoff loss came in the 1960 championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. The only time they lost, they would have won 6 titles in 8 years in the 1960s. So that's reason number one. Number two, that 4th and 26 shit in the playoffs with Freddie Mitchell. Yeah, bro. Nah. Y'all ain't getting no love from me. Nah. Can't do it, homie. 4th and 26? Are you kidding me? It's the only thing that kid ever did in the NFL ever.
He put a championship belt on himself.
Ever. You know what I'm saying? Ever.
I hear what you're saying, but the Eagles.
But it's all good. I was a huge Randall Cunningham fan, and I mean, y'all gave us Reggie White, so appreciate that, homie. It's all good.
That's true. I was in love with the Eagles defense. The offense needed a lot of help because Westbrook can only get them so far. T.O. lost his goddamn line, and they
had a great team. That Super Bowl team was super duper legit.
It could have been better. They could have been more consistent. They should have had a little bit more weapons.
Well, they had a little drama. They had some divas going on and stuff like that. They had their issues. They had their issues.
Doing the most.
I mean, I got them right now 9-7, and
as do I.
That's another team that could bounce back and maybe get a couple upsets. Like I'm not sure how that Panthers game could actually go. I'm not sure how the Seattle game could go. I'm not sure how both the Dallas.
Those are both L's.
You know, so I got them as ills right now, but those are all
they'll split with Dallas. They'll beat Dallas at the end of the season. They'll beat Dallas last game of the season.
If they pull it out, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm like, I can see him going 9-7, or I can see him slipping up and getting 11-5. That's optimistic.
I mean, because their defense is getting more consistent, and they getting a big piece back in Lane Johnson. A lot of people discredit Lyman, but this guy missed 10 games, and when he was in there, that's one of the top 5.
Oh yeah, he's legit.
Yeah, he's legit.
He's legit.
He really is. So getting him back to that rushing attack, that's why I was saying, like, having all those running backs, you can throw them out there as long as the line is healthy.
Exactly, and then you see they retool their offense, so they have a big body, a deep threat. And I think they're going to do all right. I have higher hopes for the Eagles.
Now, Marcus, I got to ask you, man, because right now they got Alshon Jeffrey in the 3rd round. And is he worth a 3rd round tackle?
Nah, he's not a man. I can't trust Alshon Jeffrey at all.
Alshon Jeffrey or Allen Robinson?
Oh Allen man, Robinson, that ain't even a question. First of all, don't you ever disrespect my football intelligence, Stephen A. Smith voice, by even having the audacity to ask me something like that. That is ass a 9, ass a 10, ass 11. But no, man, Alshon, man, supremely talented kid. Don't get me wrong, but you got to be on the field, man. That's my issue. You got to be on the field. If he's on the field, I think Carson Wentz will have a field day with him. I think Carson Wentz and him can really link up and get a good rapport with each other, but he has to stay healthy.
He played a lot more than people expected. I think he played like 10 games last year.
Yeah, he did. Don't get me wrong. And I was nervous for him then because honestly, I think and I understand the kid's drive. He wanted to get out there and be seen because he didn't know if he was going to be able to stay there, yada, 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 all that good stuff. But it was one of those things of, dude, I knew how hurt you were, stuff like that, man. Just kind of dial back on the throttle, man. Get like 100%. Let them see you at 100%.
But he contract year. He had
to
be
out there.
Yeah.
Contract year. Eddie Lacy would have took his ass back out there if he could.
Man.
Shut him down. So
honestly, Wentz is a better Josh McCown, in my opinion. He reminds me of the same mechanics of Josh McCown. And Alshon thrived with Josh McCown because he can get him those deep balls. He can get him those 50-50 balls that he can get up there and catch, where he can come down pleasantly, not like Jay Cutler, where you got to contort your body and you come down sideways, and that's why you end up getting hurt and stuff like that. And I personally feel like he can stay healthy, and with him staying healthy, I feel like he can have personally, if you got him going in the 3rd round, that's too high. But if he falls to like 4th or 5th, I'm gonna take a flyer on Alshon because that's the person with high upside. And that's
Alshon or Brandon Marshall.
I'm taking Brandon. I'm taking Brandon Marshall.
And let me ask this real quick, Eagles fans, since we're talking about Carson Wentz. On the high end of his potential, give me his quarterback comparison. What does his game translate to on the high end if he maximizes his potential? Who is he in the NFL? Yeah.
Man, the new Big Ben, I guess.
You equate his game to a Ben Roethlisberger?
I can give him that. Or you want to give him what?
I say Carson Palmer with legs.
That's to me. He looks a lot like Carson Palmer to me. A more mobile Carson Palmer.
More mobile because Carson Palmer. The injuries took Carson out. Carson had wheels at USC.
Carson had wheels at USC. He had wheels at Cincinnati before.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that. It's just that ACL. It takes a lot out of
it. But the thing is, I have to give it. The only reason why I give him Big Ben is I'm not going to give him because he's more of a stockier dude than Carson Palmer is. That he can run through a tackle, and that's the only reason why. And I feel like Carson Wentz is the type of person that can still put on. When Big Ben came in the league, he wasn't as big as he was now,
but
and
he also
put
had
on some
great ass defense on the other side.
That's true, but I can see the Eagles. But I can see the Eagles really.
Actually, he went 15-0 his rookie year.
But I like. Oh wow. I didn't even know that.
Well, I'm sorry, 14-0 because Tommy Maddox was the guy that got the loss on that team. When they went his rookie year, they went 15-1. They lost in the 2nd round of the playoffs. But Ben Roethlisberger didn't lose a game as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you can say. I mean, Carson Palmer, Big Ben. I still think that Carson Wentz has a potential to be a very, very good quarterback. Now,
Can he be a
great quarterback?
The line is going to determine.
That's about to say. It all depends on if your offensive line can hold up. If he had a Dallas offensive line, I think he could be more productive than Dak. That's no slight on Dak, but that's the potential that he has in his mechanics that I like. Me personally, if he's a top 10 quarterback, I think he's going to finish in the top 10 this year. If Alshon stays healthy, I think he can finish in the top 10 because the Eagles, they don't have the most consistent of running games, the Darren Sproles, but I feel like those dump offs to Darren Sproles and with the offensive weapons that they have now and with Ertz, I think they found someone Ertz in the tail end of last year.
But they do all right. I almost got
now. If he finishes top 10,
they do that every year. Ertz have the greatest 4 games to end the season you will ever see a tight end have.
Yeah, that's true.
And then he has all this damn draft value like going into a time like now. Why is he not consistent? I understand he was a rookie, but you're the blanket. You're supposed to be the blanket.
But I don't think their offense is consistent, and I don't think their offense is predicated on him being the blanket so much as just another option in their offense. I think that the way that the Philly offense is structured, their biggest security blankets, oddly enough, are their running back.
Mm-hmm. And then Aguilar didn't pan out to how he was supposed to. And Jordan,
I haven't given up on that kid though. I haven't given up on him.
But he's like 5th in the pecking order now.
Yeah, but he was supposed to be the speed person that they were going to get. And then Jordan Matthews, he had a problem catching balls last year, so that put just more pressure on Zach Ertz. And I personally think with Alshon and Torrey Smith is a talent that still, I feel like it was wasted with the 49ers, and I still think he
worth a shot. Is he worth
Alvin Harper?
He's
out the 21st century Alvin Harper.
Oh man, dang!
It's no diss. I'm just saying he pretty much only has one function. Just go deep. I'll throw it to you.
That's true, and I think
Joe Flacco made it work.
So
I'm not saying that it can't work or that like again. It's not a diss. There's plenty of guys in the NFL that are like that. Mike Wallace. It's plenty of guys out there like that, but. It only gives you so much to work with too, and it limits his availability as far as how often you put him out there on the field for what it is that you want to do.
I'll put him out there. He's the deep threat that they need, that they were supposed to get in Aguilar, and then with Jordan Matthews, that frees him up to do what he needs to do. And he needs to get some sticky glue on his hands, like what's that? The Big Mean Green Giant, that movie back in the day. Glue or something to hold his hand, because him dropping balls makes it bad for Ertz. Because makes it bad for Ertz because if Jordan Matthews not catching that ball, you're not going to really be too bothered with him, and that's his problem.
And I don't want to be on paper guy, but when you look at this list, this is like 7 almost elite players on the offensive side, but they just have to gel. But it's like you can find something wrong with every player, at least from a fantasy standpoint.
Oh yeah.
Darren Sproles don't get enough volume. We don't know if LeGarrette Blount will be able to
transition over.
Transition. Alshon Jeffrey was outperformed by Cameron Meredith on the same team. He was healthy.
That is true.
Matthews with his drops, Torrey Smith disappearing, Zach Ertz only being great in December. It's something wrong with every level of this team. But if they can get it all to gel,
I like Carson though.
And that's what it all comes down to. Carson in the offensive line. If the line can protect him long enough to make plays to this is a damn good roster as far as people to throw to.
And you know what? Let me amend my previous statement when we did our QB comparison. I will up the ante and put a little paprika on it and be a little bit bolder, because with the gritty way that young man actually plays, ironically enough, in Carson Wentz, I see a lot of Donovan McNabb.
Oh man, you can't see that. You can't see that.
I see a lot of Donovan McNabb in the way that kid plays, and that's one of the things that makes me like
mobility.
Yeah,
it seems like
and that's just that ability to get out there and dig it out, fight, that grit, that heart, that blue collar mentality. It is, and yes, that's a trademark of Philly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what they're all about, and I just see that written all over that kid, and that's why I really love him being in Philadelphia. I think that I actually love the fact that he's in Philadelphia. It makes me love him more as opposed to if he was playing somewhere else.
Oh yeah,
I just think that he fits so much to that personality of that city and that team.
him and Meek Mill gonna have a lot of good commercials together.
Man, get out of here with that Meek. Get out of here with that Meek.
The fact that he even like mustered out 7 wins when they really had an opportunity to win about 10 of those games, I think that showed that he was ready for the stage in his own. Compared to Goff looked terrible all year. At least Wentz came out there.
Goff suffered from Vince Young's coach. That's never good for anybody.
Yeah, Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher is horrible for quarterbacks, period.
Just in general, he's bad for football.
He's bad for football in general.
But he keeps getting that money. Getting that money.
And the thing I like about Carson Wentz that you alluded to is you say he's a blue collar worker coming from North Dakota State that always Houston. They're known for that. They're overachievers. They're good at what they do. They grind out. The linemen they have the best linemen, the best for what they can get. And Carson Wentz is like that, and he's never been given anything. You could tell that, and he seems like he's that type of person that grinded out, the person that's not going to leave your team, the type of person that can, I guess, lead the team like a Derek Carr. And that's the thing about these young quarterbacks that I'm liking, that they coming with the mind mentality that they can lead men at a young age, and he's an embodiment of that. You know, him, Dak, Russell. You know. The list goes
on. They follow the blueprint that they've been shown, because to go through, you look at the generation that preceded them: Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady. Exactly. All those guys got handed the reins at a young age, and they had to go through and fight over some obstacles and get to where they needed to get. And they not only succeeded with that, they flourished. You go back and you look at a Cam Newton, at a Peyton Manning, folks like that got thrown to the wolves relatively early. But they overcame that. They learned from those growing pains kind of on the fly, and they succeeded. They exceeded, some people's expectations. It's a hard thing to do in today's NFL because they're so quick to want to throw everybody to the fire, whereas guys back in the day had time to tote that clipboard. They had time to learn. You had an Aaron Rodgers that had a time to learn. You had a Tom Brady to a certain extent that had a little bit of time to learn. You had a Steve McNair that had a time. Yeah, you had guys that had time to learn. Yeah, you go through and you get those situations, and it's always going to be a little bit more productive, but then you have those exceptions. You have a guy like a Peyton Manning that came out there, trial by fire, chucked about 30 interceptions his rookie season, but he bounced back and he became Peyton Manning. You get those situations. So, it's an inexact science, but it's one of those things that you're encouraged when you see so many young guns out there not only doing it, but it's one of those things that it's not just the talent, it's the intangibles, it's the leadership qualities, it's that mentality.
Exactly.
And with that being said, do you see the door opening more? I mean, we had Khalil Mack come from a smaller school, of course, Carson Wentz, and we also got the kid that's in Wyoming that should be a top 5 pick. But are you seeing that teams are a little bit more open to going to the smaller schools and checking out that talent and drafting them in the first round?
I think that it's
have they finally made that transition? It took a while.
I think that it's somewhat accurate, but I think that it's also hugely misleading because you have to understand the history of the game, and 2 things will always ring true. Number one, if you're good, somebody will find you anywhere. But number 2, it's not something that's really new. I mean, where did Phil Simms come from? Where did Kenny Anderson come from? I mean, Augustana College? Really? Does anybody even know where that is on a map? You know what I'm saying? You look at all-time greats, you have to look at the fact that before schools really got integrated, they were going to every small school because every black player that came out and went to the NFL came from a little black small school.
Michael Strahan.
You know what I'm saying? They came from a South Carolina State. They came from a Prairie View or a Grambling. That's how you get that distinction of being the Notre Dame of black college.
But the thing is, now they actually starting to get the invites to come out to all these at first you had to go out there and find talent. Now they actually, it feel like the NFL is opening their arms to the smaller schools. Like, hey,
well, they're making it look that way, but I never trust the money hungry people. It's just about business. Anything that can make them anything that makes them a buck. Yeah, if I can go find out that next big thing and get it on the cheap and look like a star, of course I'm going to go out there and dig them up. Of course I'm going to go get those finds. We can look back as recently as when Steve McNair got drafted by the Oilers, and people were second-guessing that and talking about how it was just a fluke and he wasn't really that good because he just played in the SWAC. Bruh, talent is talent. I don't give a damn who you are or where you are. That's being disproven year by year, day by day, all the time. There's different situations that set up these circumstances for these kids to come out of these small schools or these different situations. Randy Moss wasn't a Marshall talent, but that's where you found him.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Terrell Owens wasn't a Tennessee Chattanooga talent, but that's where you found him.
That's true. That's true. You know, we already 3 divisions in, and I'm not sure who's going to be the 2 teams in a wild card. Do we see 2 teams come from this division, or is that going to be for the NFC South?
I think that the wild cards in the NFC, I think that the 2 teams are going to come out of the East, and I think that 2 teams are going to come out of the South.
You think?
Because I look for Carolina to bounce back this year and put some heat out there, but I think the Tampa Bay and Atlanta are going to go to the playoffs.
And I wouldn't be surprised if 3 made it out the South.
I
don't see 3 because that
see the Saints.
Honestly, with the way that the NFC is, that means that 3 of those teams in that division would have to win 10 games. They would have to go. They would have to go. They would have to win 10 games, and that ain't gonna happen.
See, I have more faith in the Bucks and New Orleans more than I do than the Falcons. And the only reason with the Falcons,
Super Bowl hangover ain't gonna be that severe, and they actually got better on defense. That's one of the reasons why I'm still going with it now.
But losing Shanahan, I don't know how that's gonna affect them.
They got a good football program, though.
They do. I see.
And I will always go all in. For the record, on teams that are coached by defensive coaches over offensive coaches.
Yes,
because it's easier to overcome offensive deficiencies with a smart defensive mind. Ask the Patriots.
Yep.
Yeah, you're
Ask
right.
the Patriots.
You can lock somebody down, and you can.
And Dan Quinn is a defensive guy, and I know he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because his defense wasn't where he wanted it to be last season, and they took steps to improve that.
They was young, though. They was very young.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They were young. They kind of played over their heads at times, and they overachieved to get as far as they got.
Yes,
and it's tip of the cap to them all the way. But with that being said, I don't think that Kyle Shanahan leaving that offense is going to hurt as much as far as giving them the Super Bowl hangover, because Matt Ryan is still going to be Matt Ryan. In all honesty, Dan Quinn ain't going to trust nobody in that building anymore to say, well, no, don't run the ball no more. Just throw it. Bullshit. We got all these thoroughbreds back here. One of them going to get the ball. We about to run this bad boy. Freeman is going to get a ton of touches. Coleman is going to get a ton of touches. They're going to do what they do best. They're going to be more throwback. They're going to be a little bit more ground and pound. And then you got to deal with those receivers, man. You got to deal with those options that they have in that receiving game. It's still versatile. It's still unpredictable. And as they showed you, when they didn't have Julio Jones and people were licking their chops, Matt was like, well, shit, I got 600 people to throw to. I don't care. Yep. And was still chucking that ball. So in that regard, I think that Atlanta is still going to stay above New Orleans, because I do not see New Orleans bouncing back on both sides of the ball enough to present a problem to the Atlantas and the Carolinas of that division. Carolina immediately fixed their problem. They got Cam Moore weapons to work with. As long as their defense stays healthy, they should be all right, although they are kind of looking bad for just giving away Josh Norman because their secondary hasn't been the same since.
Right.
But that being said, I still see Atlanta and Carolina fighting it out for the division, and I think whoever doesn't win the division is going to win the wild card. I see both of those teams winning at least 10 games. I have Atlanta closer to 10 or 11 wins. I actually have Tampa, as we talked about, being my surprise of the entire league. That's my sleeper team for the league. I look for them to win 12 games. I look for them to win 12 games.
You're not the only one. We already put together our rundown for the NFC South. So
yeah, I look for them to win 12 games and really surprise a lot of people. They're getting that program together, and they got a lot of pieces in place right now to really, really do some damage. But that's why I look for them to have one wild card, and then just off the simple thing of, I think that talent-wise, it's going to be hard to suppress Dallas and the Giants. I think that those two guys are going to go to the playoffs as well, just like they did last year. The only thing that would stop them, in my personal opinion, is if you get into a situation where these guys are all beating the hell out of each other in the division, then Minnesota will replace them in the playoffs as a wild card.
Minnesota
because it's a two-team race. It's a two-team race in the North. I can tell you that right now. Minnesota and Green Bay are going to battle for the division title, and Detroit and Chicago are not going to be here.
Green Bay is a couple miles ahead. Detroit's fucking done. I still feel like Green Bay is a couple miles ahead. I mean, off the quarterback alone, we talking about Bradford to Rodgers.
Off the quarterback they're ahead. Off the overall talent, when you look at it on paper, though, when you look at the talent on paper, It's a lot more even than people want to give it credit for,
but it's
myself
a
included.
league, baby. It's a quarterback.
It's a quarterback league.
You got to be able to sling that pill, homie. You got to be able to toss that rock, baby.
You nothing without one, man. But that was a quick NFC South preview. May or may not have Wilson on for that one. We'll see. We'll see as time goes on. But man,
y'all better call these folks and complain and let them know that y'all need me on here. We need this triple shot of Marcus going on.
There you go.
It's the new triple threat in Houston, man. Move over. And no doubt, man, it's been a good talk as usual. Good basketball talk. Free agency is gonna be hitting over this weekend, so it's gonna be bananas this whole weekend.
Oh,
no doubt, man. We'll get our notes together. We'll recap everything, go over who made the best moves, who didn't make the right moves, and all that good stuff. Anything you guys got to say before we get up out of here?
Nah, just gotta go enjoy my Queen Sugar, and that's about it, really, man. Just to see what's going. I'm just curious to see the moves that's going to be made, and I hope the Rockets land Paul Millsap. Honestly, that's the person I'm hoping that we get, but we'll see what's going to go down.
Is there anybody on a wish list for the Spurs in Spurs land?
For the Spurs, like I said, I know that they would love to have somebody like a George Hill and Iguodala. I think that Pop slowly but surely is showing that he can evolve yet again, going from his 99 and 03 teams that would just beat you down half court, slow it down, boring teams, to evolving and doing the ball movement, going to the beautiful game in 2014, and now having to combat the small ball lineups. So I look for their top two priorities to probably be George Hill and Iguodala, outside of them, please re-signing Jonathan Simmons. Please give that man his money.
He's going to get a lot of cash, my man.
Give that man his money. We need him to stay in black and silver.
The surprise team, I think, is really going to surprise people. I keep going back to Pat Riley, but if he can swing Gordon Hayward, I think Blake Griffin will follow. And I think they're going to try to build.
But I don't look at that as much as a surprise, though, because I look at Riley's track record. That doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, but bringing in Blake Griffin, somebody that I'm sure Oklahoma City want to attack, I'm sure the Clippers going to want to re-sign him. It's going to be a lot of teams in the West.
Well, for my money, I think that with Blake, it comes down to either OKC or Miami. OKC because it's home and he can be coddled and nobody really has that kind of.
Who wants to stay in Miami on the beach or OKC?
See, for him, he wins either way, because going back home, you don't have to be that dominant face of personality because you got Russ there. If you go to Miami, you also don't have to be the face there, and you kind of get in where you fit in, and you get made to look better because you got a dude behind you.
Playmaker. He can be a playmaker.
That's actually a little bit more skilled than DeAndre Jordan and Hassan Whiteside. Exactly. You got good wing talent with Justice Winslow. If they go through and they get Gordon Hayward, they got pieces in place. They got talent. So either way it goes, he goes to a spot where he doesn't have to be the man. And I think that that's the thing that makes him thrive the most, because Blake is a great player, but Blake is not an alpha dog.
No,
that's not his personality.
We're gonna see where Blake. If Blake goes there, Gordon Hayward may go there. If Gordon Hayward and
Chris might just be in love and just be Paul, like, James, hey, we need Blake to come to the H2, baby. Get him down here.
Oh, hell no! Don't wish each other. Don't even wish that up on us.
Run my blood pressure back up.
I can't wait to get y'all matching jerseys, man. Get that Blake.
Yes. I'm burn that shit.
Yeah, Kia commercials for everybody. Yes.
I'm about to
while you talking, I'm ready for I'm ready for the next State Farm commercial for James Harden to come
Boy, don't even
get your money, James Harden.
Man, get that paper, homie.
He getting enough with Adidas on his own. But
man,
you can always check us out at Fish and Grits on Facebook, at Fish and Grits 713 on Twitter. Definitely, I'm going to send y'all guys the links as soon as I'm done. But as for now, this has been Fish and Grits, and you guys have just been served.
Y'all enjoy.
Peace.